Hello everyone, welcome into my latest live video. Happy Father's Day. It's Sunday, June 21st, 2026. I'm CareyHolzman, and today we're going to follow up with a part 2 on the Glorlin, the GT103. It's under $300. It has 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gig of storage, so it's almost like you're getting the PC for nearly nothing. You know, the downside about buying one of these little PCs is, let's say you decide to sell it. If you only paid $290 for it, how much money do you think it's worth after you've purchased it? You know what I mean? Like, how much money do you think you're going to be able to get out of it? Apart from pulling out the RAM and storage, it may actually be worth more, just the RAM and storage, than the entire computer. Like, if you own this for about 6 months, you decide you don't want it, maybe it's a year or two old. The longer you have it, the less it's worth, until at some point, you're just asking somebody to take it from you for, you know, the price of lunch. So when you buy these cheap computers, they are considered more or less disposable. The idea about repairability, whether or not you can repair it, is sort of pointless because it's such an inexpensive computer and repairs are so expensive, time consuming, and sometimes things don't get repaired right the first time and you have to go back and forth and live without it and hassles while it's being repaired, that you just go buy another one. You know, but at the same time, if you spend a bit more money, you can have a computer that isn't considered disposable, one that's worth repairing, and one that'll last at least 2 to 3 times longer before it becomes a bit long in the tooth. But these computers, when they're discounted like this, they're usually because they're old inventory. So you're looking at computer processors that were released, you know, a few years ago. And so they're brand new, but using older technology. It'd be like going onto a brand new car lot, and let's say they have a car that's never been purchased and it's been sitting on a lot for 2 or 3 years. It's only got less than 100 miles on the odometer from test drives. No one's ever owned it. It's just been sitting there. Nothing wrong with it. It's brand new. It's just been sitting a very long time, so they're going to reduce the price in order to get it out the door. Then when you want to turn around and resell that car, even 2 days after you buy it, you will not be able to sell it. Not likely. For what you paid for it, or anywhere close. You probably get about half of what you paid for it. So you might as well keep it. It's in your best interest when you're buying this discounted old inventory. I mean, unless you're a real good salesman and a flipper, you know, I'm sure there's some real clever manipulators out there that can get, what do they say, sell ice to an Eskimo. For the rest of us, boy, it's a challenge. And I can tell you from experience, having listed items on eBay, and eBay is available, you know, across the entire United States, you almost have to give it away these days for anybody to buy it. Like, they either have to have a special need case where they have to buy it, or you're offering it so cheap that someone's willing to buy it so they can resell it. I almost think at this point, more people, at least with computers, are not buying computers for any other reason other than to turn around and resell them. So obviously, the price has to be attractive for them that they can still make a profit on it. And I've never seen so much of it. In fact, there are YouTube videos showing you how to walk into your local Goodwill and charity store like Savers and how to scan items on the shelf to determine what they could sell for on eBay. And they have no intention of using any of the items they're buying. They simply are doing this as a form to make money. But I will tell you from experience, having done something very similar, the idea that you would drive to some location, meander around the store, especially somewhere like Goodwill that has no regular or consistent inventory, trying to find anything of value that somebody before you didn't already pick up that you never knew was there, making that decision, purchasing it, taking it home, taking pictures of it, writing a description on, you know, let's just say it's eBay, but whatever, it's the same, right? Take pictures of the item, show any scratches, scuffs, up, down, left, right. Then somebody, let's say, buys it, and then you got to put it in a box. You got to package it in a way that it doesn't arrive broken. You got to deal with scammers. You got to pay the eBay fees. And so you bought a $6 item and you sold it for $12 plus $5 for shipping. You pay eBay 30%. The post office or whoever you ship with gets the $5. So when it's all said and done, you spend about 3 to 4 hours of your time and you made $4, maybe $10. It works out to one of the lowest possible paying jobs you could have. It's a job. It is a job. But, you know, people hear these stories where somebody bought something at a garage sale and it turned out to be a Vincent van Gogh painting or something, and it was worth $1 million. It's just like people winning the lottery, right? You'll see about those people on the news too. But as far as those big ticket lottery wins, I don't know anybody in my life. I don't know anybody who knows anybody in my life that's ever won a big ticket lottery. And on top of that, people will play the lottery like they're thinking they're the next one because they saw it on the news. They saw these people. Yeah, somebody's going to win. And if you're a gambler and you enjoy that sort of investment of your time, I'm not telling you not to do it. But the whole point of this is that if you do want to buy a very inexpensive computer, this Glorlin at under $300, you'd be hard-pressed to be able to resell it yourself. I mean, for anywhere other than the price of the RAM and storage, the PC really has no value today. So let's talk about this a little bit, because I want to dive deep into what you should expect if you want to go this route. Now, for me personally, if I've got somebody who's a very light computer user, somebody who's just browsing the web or paying some bills online, etc., something like this would be perfect for them. If I'm looking for a cheap media computer or a home lab PC that I can monkey around with, who cares if I break it? This costs less than 2 tickets to Disneyland. Seriously. So what you're getting for the money is an older tool, and it's probably not got a whole lot of life left in it because how much of life has been already spent. For example, this has an AMD, I think it's a 5300U processor. Okay, so we just got this last month. And an AMD 5300 processor was introduced by AMD. Let's see what the computer says. This was introduced back in 2021, January, right at the beginning of 2021. So that makes this 5.5 years old. Let me repeat that, 5.5 years old. Now, how old is the computer you have now? I've seen people running computers that are about 12 years old. 12 seems to be about the limit. And what ends up happening as a computer ages, if it does need repair, and the older it gets, just like a person, the more repair and maintenance it needs. I've seen people kind of limp along on a 12-year-old computer. Anything older than that, I've never seen. I've never seen anybody actually using a computer more than 12 years old, ever in the history of me doing this. They might have it as a toy they play with. And they'll start having problems overall about in year 8. That's when the problems start. And if you look at, go to Reddit or go to other forums where people are asking for PC repair help, they're almost always a minimum of 8 years old and older. And a lot of them are laptops that are abused, broken hinges, broken jacks, broken screens. Of course, the batteries are going to be long shot. After 4 years, those batteries are pretty much not much left in them. So you double that now to 8 years plus, and you basically have a battery-shaped brick inside of the thing. And when you add in all the cost and time and labor and even trying to find parts for that, it exceeds the value of something like this. So it just makes sense to buy something new. It has a 1-year warranty on it. But don't expect to get more than about 4 years out of this. If you do, I mean, good for you. I'm not saying it's impossible. But statistically speaking, this is a temporary fix, or it's a fix intended for somebody, again, it's a very light user. And most days, these days, a lot of light users just use their phones. They don't really need anything like this, except in certain circumstances where maybe they need a bigger screen, maybe their eyesight's not so good, or they want like a media PC and they don't want to spend a lot of money on it, etc., etc. And so just keep that in mind as we review these PCs. It doesn't make the PC good or bad. It's just what you get for the money. If you think you're getting a brand new computer with recent technology that's going to last 12 years, I'm sure it likely will work in 12 years, but so will your Windows 98 computer if you want to power it up today. I'm sure it'll work fine. There's plenty of videos on YouTube showcasing the Atari 2600 that was sold in the mid-1970s. They still work fine today. Nobody wants to play with them, except for a few folks, high-end enthusiasts that have the time and the interest to blow the dust off of it, get the adapters to hook it up to an HDMI TV when we didn't have that technology back then. And that costs more money and more money to just keep converting things to connect when things don't connect anymore. You know, trying to convert an 8-track tape to an MP3, that's a project, okay? And in most cases, it's just cheaper and faster to just buy a new album or just stream it off, you know, the internet. But to each their own. Everybody has their hobbies, and hobbies generally do cost money. They're not money-making enterprises, or they would not be hobbies, they'd be jobs. So with that, I want to say hello to everybody joining us in the chat. While I start unboxing this, just to plug it back in, I did do the rest of the updates last night, so we didn't have to sit here and wait for that. It's been about a month since we looked at this, and it's been sitting in the box ever since. So all I need to do right now is just plug it back in, and I want to say thank you to our friend Buster out there in Scotland, who sends us a generous Amazon gift card in lieu of a super chat. And shout out and thank you to Buster. Also, Luke Greenia, another one of our friends who lives out there in Vermont, sends us a very generous PayPal contribution. So thank you to Luke as always. And Luke's got a few of our machines here that we've reviewed or built, and likes to give us updates on how they're working, and always tickles me to hear good news. I typically, you know, if I don't hear anything at all, I typically think no news is good news, and it's always nice to get the verification that everything's working. All right, let me get this plugged in. So let's see, there's power, and I need HDMI and Ethernet. Now this does have a display port on it as well. There are just 5 USB ports on this. There's 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and then the USB Type-C, which is just USB 3.2. That's a total of 5. For some reason it has 2 2.5 gig LAN jacks, which if you were a home enthusiast, you like to monkey around and play around with stuff, you could set this up as an open, what do we call that? Like an open WRT route or something like that. That's not what it's called. I can't think. There's some software you can download, you know, if you want to get into all the technical stuff and, you know, end up locking yourself out of websites as you learn. That's kind of the cost of learning, is you got to figure all this out. And then, of course, if you don't set it all up right and you end up getting hacked, that's how you learn. I don't really have time for that because it's not a hobby for me. As I mentioned, you know, I keep businesses up and running: dentist office, doctor's office, lawyers, accountants, real estate agents. And they need to get to work. They got houses to sell. They got clients to see. They have customers. If you don't have any customers, you're an enthusiast, and that's okay. But do keep in mind that what works for you is very impractical for other people. That's all. We just have mutual respect for everybody's interest here. You know, if I was an enthusiast, I probably wouldn't have much money, right? Because if I'm not working, or let's say I am working, I still probably wouldn't have much money. But to then turn around and spend it on, you know, having a computer would be the best computer I could buy. And then if I've already got that paid for, and now I'm looking for a computer to play with, something like this would be ideal, because it isn't going to break the bank, and it won't matter if you break it. You know what I mean? Especially if you're under warranty anyway for the first year. Assuming you don't cause any physical damage, you probably get it replaced for free somehow. I don't know how Glorlin or Gatorly's warranty works. I have no idea. We've never tested it. We've really, you know, their support's been okay. You know, when we reached out to them, they've not been outstanding, but why would they be? It'd be like saying, you know, when I went to McDonald's, they didn't wipe my table down, they didn't seat me. No, it's because you're at McDonald's. You want that, you got to go to a nicer place. So let's be realistic and reasonable about what it is we're buying and what to expect in return for the money. They do accommodate those demands at higher prices, and they being not Glorlin or not Gatorly, but other brands. So if you want that, pay for it. If you don't pay for it and you still want it, good luck with getting that to work out, because you don't have any authority. All you can do is return the unit. All right. In some cases, you can't even return the unit. In some cases, like AliExpress, you'll probably be stuck with it, just like you are if you buy something at a garage sale. Let me switch over here. Let's see this thing boot up. Geez, it already booted up. Let me restart. Hold on a second. Where's my mouse? There it is. Let's go down here and let's check out the restart time. Also, this does not have any power modes. I checked the BIOS yesterday, and there's not like a balanced power performance quiet mode. It doesn't have any of that. This is a very basic machine that, again, is already 5 years old, 5.5 years old from the day you bought it. Or at least the technology that's inside of this was introduced to the market 5.5 years ago, even though it's brand new. I can't emphasize that enough. On the other hand, you are getting 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gig of Gen 3 NVMe storage for under $300. So just the price of the RAM and storage alone is 2/3 the cost of this machine. So you can see it boots up plenty fast, right? It's only if you're going to put this onto, heavy tasks that you would run into issues with performance. It'll still do video editing and things like that. You're just going to wait a while. Now, I have to remind you, the older the computer is, the more likely you're going to need help. The more likely you're going to have issues. And that's just the nature of the beast, right? I mean, again, there's not a lot of young human beings that have prostate cancer. It's something that typically comes with age. The older you get, the more likely that sort of thing is to occur. And so the same is true with technology. If you want to go out and buy a 20-year-old refrigerator, it still might run, but if it breaks, it may not be worth fixing. Also, it's probably not very power efficient in the sense of how much it costs you in electricity. So you might end up actually spending a lot more money. This is the logic that keeps poor people poor or broke people broke. They keep thinking they're getting a deal and they don't understand the cost of ownership. And then after a couple of years, especially all it takes is one repair, but just paying for the electric bill on it would have paid for a brand new refrigerator under warranty with a lot of modern features, LED lighting, ice and water in the door, et cetera, et cetera. And they just can't see past tomorrow, right? These folks, they just were never taught how to look ahead and how to invest. If you invest in yourself today, it costs money today. But it's money you won't have to spend again for years and years and years if you buy something good with a good warranty. Quality product, get it on sale, figure out a way to pay for it, and you'll save money. And that'll get you out of that mentality that you're always struggling to just keep up. That's a lesson I learned the hard way because I grew up without any money, and my parents did exactly that. They bought the cheapest damn thing, and they had to keep rebuying it over and over and over again. Not to mention the hassle, of having to replace it. But I don't want to live that way. So, I'm pretty passionate about that mentality. If you're not willing to invest in yourself, I personally think you're worth it. It just may mean you can't get everything today. You make the investment and buy a good quality thing today. And the other good quality thing you want next is going to have to wait until you get that paid for. And then do the next one. You got time. But if you just keep buying things as you need them and you're always buying the cheapest thing, you're going to do that to the day you die. You'll never get to a situation, highly unlikely, where you can just relax and enjoy. But, it's your choice. It's your life. But like I said, I grew up that way and I didn't want to live that way. So just explaining why I think it's worth it to not buy something like this under those circumstances. So as a reminder, just looking at the benchmarks we ran, this is running at 2300 sequential read speed, 1746 on the sequential writes. So it's about, it's a pretty mid-range Gen 3 NVMe drive. But again, it wouldn't make any sense for it to be any faster. As long as you got that CPU in there, it really isn't going to make much difference. And then we go down to the device manager and you'll see these are the network adapters we have in there. It's a couple of Realtek 2.5 gig LAN jacks there and a Realtek Wi-Fi 6, which is also the Bluetooth. Continuing on with our benchmark results, what do we have here? Oh, that was what I just pulled up. Why is that? Oh, I see. I did a close-up, a zoom in. Okay. Over here, this is the information about the generic solid-state drive that's in there. Doesn't even have a name. Once again, that's what you get for the price. It doesn't have a name. There's really nobody to reach out to. It does show it's connected at PCIe by 4. However, the drive components themselves cannot run at that speed. They can communicate at that speed. You could, for example, get on a roadway where the speed limit's 80 in a little tiny old weak car that has 70 horsepower, like a smart car, and hit a maximum speed of 73 miles an hour because the smart car won't go any faster unless you're going downhill, for example. Now, if we come over here, what is this? This is same page I was just on. There's what I want, our Cinebench results. You're not going to see anything staggering here. It runs exactly as you would expect a Ryzen 5300 to run. It's not any different than any other 5300U. You'll see we've got 4 cores here. And our maximum temps are still going to be the same maximum temps as a more modern processor that's faster. They all sort of have the same thermal limits, even though, you know, you may be paying more for it, and it may have more cores, and it may have higher frequencies. They still all pretty much peak out about the same. Let's see what this one says. This one's actually peaking out pretty low. If we look at the core temperatures here, it's still in the 80s. That's not bad. Now, on the other hand, you still could get a brand new computer that's 5 times faster than this one that actually runs in very similar or even cooler temps, depending on what you spend and how important that is to you. So I guess what I'm trying to say, when you really get down to the gist of it, is you get what you're going to pay for. All right? It's not ripping you off, and it's not the bargain of the century. If you go and you buy a kid's meal at McDonald's, you get less food, and you pay less for it. If you buy a 4-piece chicken McNuggets, it costs less than a 10-piece chicken McNuggets. You paid less, you got less. And if you say those chicken McNuggets are not healthy, there is a healthier version of chicken nuggets that's sold at other restaurants for 2 to 3 times the price. You will get what you pay for. I'm not getting any Wagyu steaks at the grocery store for the price of sirloin. Not going to happen. And if it did happen, it probably wouldn't be in inventory very long because everybody would buy it up. Okay? So those of you that are bargain hunters, I think the first thing you need to ask yourself is it really a bargain or is it just stripped out? Now, same with cars. Same with everything in the world, man. And PCs are no different than that. And if you're okay with it, it's actually a pretty decent little machine. The fan is, you know, when it's working, you can hear it, but it's not the quietest PC. It's not the loudest PC. It's pretty easy to work on. There's 4 screws on the bottom. The bottom just opens up. You have 2 DDR4 RAM sockets and an NVMe Gen 3 slot. Pretty simple, basic. And again, I think for people that are just watching YouTube, going to social media, paying bills online, checking email, I would even say general office work, if all you're doing is mostly like Word documents, PDF files, correspondence, setting appointments, even this in an office would be fine. But it depends on the office worker's job. If the office worker is running AutoCAD or 3D printing files, you're going to be waiting a while. This one will do all of that. It's just going to take it longer to get it done. That means you're not going to get as much done in the day, and more than likely the boss will replace the computer because it's costing the boss more to pay for your time. You know, I had this discussion the other day where customer's hard drive needed some work done. It needed to go to a different, you know, MBR partition to GPT partition, and things get a little wonky. And you can do all that by hand in DOS. And hey, when that works, good. But when it doesn't work, you could be there an hour or 2 hours just trying to go through all the processes, the research, to, the Googling and the Gemini and ChatGPT to figure out what's the next thing I have to do here. Because as a technician, I don't run into that very often. In fact, I've only run into it one time. Or you can buy a piece of software that for $40 will do it for you. Now, let's say you're the boss and I walk up to you as your tech and I go, look, this computer is going to need about, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours of my time to untangle this, or I can completely format it and start over again and lose everything on it. You'll have to, put all your Windows software, drivers, Office, printers, email, all that stuff has to get put back on. Or we could simply replace the computer, but again, we're still back to having to reinstall and reconfigure everything. Or we can buy this piece of software for $40 and it will do the work we need done in like under 10 minutes. Which one would you have me do? You want to pay me for every hour I'm there figuring it out? Do you want to buy a new machine? Do you want to pay me for all the time I'm going to have to spend if I wipe it, reinstall it, reconfigure everything from scratch? It's always a couple of hours of my time per hour. You're going to pay me. Or you can buy this piece of software for $40. We'll get that job done in 10 minutes. Which would you prefer? Don't matter to me. So enthusiasts, they'll say, I'm saving the $40. I got all day. But when somebody's waiting on you, you're being paid for your time, the longer it takes you, the more they're going to pay. Either that or you're working for a charity, which is fine with me. I don't mind. It's just really hard for me to pay my bills if nobody's paying me. It's kind of like a domino effect. Let me say hello to everybody joining us today. Montana says hello. Rampuria Paresh says hello. There's Paul Bircher. PGL 2025 saying Happy Father's Day to all your fathers. There's Sean Skinner, David Graham saying hello in the chat room, along with Gary Tatum, Jim Kenny, Andy W6AD, 3D Everything, Arnold Albert, and Mark Leibowitz. Mark says it's a rainy Father's Day in Chicago. My barbecue plans have been drenched. Fortunately, we have a live stream to save Father's Day. I have a gas grill and I keep it under the patio. That way, if it rains outside 3 times a year that it rains, Murphy's Law, that'll be the day of barbecue. Has no impact on me, man. But I wouldn't do that with coal just because of the gases, the carbon dioxide, whatever the carbon is, it's smoky. But the gas grill under the patio, easy. Sweet says hello. John Rogers and Edward Bass are joining us. Andy mentions it's summer solstice. That's right, it's the first day of summer today. That is correct. I forgot about that. It is officially summertime. It looks like Wednesday, I think we're up around 113, 114 degrees Fahrenheit. Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, I'll be staying indoors as much as I possibly can until the sun goes down, which is until around 8 o'clock at night now. It is too hot. KD Bousquet says, late to the stream, but made it nonetheless. I hope everyone is having a blessed Sunday. Back at you, my friend. W.E. Holmes says 84 degrees in the Central Valley. Welcome in, W.E. Holmes, joining us from, I don't know, where's the Central Valley? I can't remember. Is that Scotland? It's awfully warm in Scotland. That doesn't sound right. Eugene Ildago says hello. And Mark Leibowitz, who works as a computer repair tech as I do, very similar, but he's in Chicago. He says he had a client who kept insisting I fixed his 17-year-old LG laptop, which he'd purchased overseas. It still had Windows XP in 2018. I finally told them I couldn't get parts for it, not to bring it back. Well, and it's not a lie. It's not like you're being mean or uncooperative. You just can't fabricate your own parts. Manufacturers do that on purpose because they want you to buy a new machine, and they'll bet you it'll be one of theirs. They're willing to lose your business. That's how important it is. Dell, Lenovo, HP, they all do it. Acer, all of them. David Graham said, my Ryzen 7 5800X is 6 years old, and I bet I get 5 more. Yeah, well, I'm sure the machine will run 50 more years. I just don't know at what point you will be dissatisfied with its abilities. So if you're guessing 5 years on that, yeah, you could be right. And like I said, the computers really start to limp at 10 years, but they'll still move. And then usually by 12 years, you have an operating system incompatibility, or parts start to fail and you can't find them, or the cost of repair exceeds the value of the machine. But if it continues to work and you continue to be happy with it, it's not a hard set limit. It's for each one of us to decide on our own. And, you do what's best for you. Scott Messerschmidt says hello. There's Jonathan Fells joining us, and Shane Perkins. Linwood Jones says hello, along with Old Man Timer and Terrell Cockrum. Dustin Fuller says hello. Lou Greenia says the wife is still absolutely loving the Firebat laptop, and the Asus BT10 mesh router is still operating flawlessly. And of course, Project Zero has evolved into a creation of its own. Nice. He says, now I'm saving up for a higher-end mini for my office/game room. There you go. Jack Kugelmis joining us from Canada says, Happy Father's Day from Toronto. John Lewis joins us from Brazil. Is it Father's Day in Brazil? Is that a universal holiday? I know Canada, the UK, the USA, I think Australia and New Zealand all celebrate Father's Day today. Odin Osferatu says, I got my mining XMR right now, not bad at about 600 HS. Yeah, I don't know with any of that. I'm surprised anybody still does any mining today, but for purposes like that, kind of specialty, very niche purposes, have at it. Elijah Dickens says hello and happy Father's Day to everybody, as does our friend Mark Gaines out there in Northern Ireland. W. Holmes says, last October, I got a minis for him, UN150P. That's your baseline N150, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 storage, 2.5 gig ports, Windows 11 Pro. Real simple machine. He said it was $169. Yeah, well, it wasn't that long ago we could talk about budget entry-level machines for under $200. I was predicting that we're going to get to $99 until the AI data center rage started happening. Now AI companies like OpenAI and XAI and Google's, they're all buying up all the RAM and storage. And until they build out, that's the way it'll be. Eventually, they'll either run out of money or they'll build out, whichever happens first. So in the meantime, you can enjoy the good old days of last year when the prices were, half of what they are. We might be saying the same about fuel here too, with gasoline. We'll see what happens. Mark Leibowitz said he has a gas grill, but he doesn't have a patio, just a driveway slab. I gotcha. Yeah, Chicago's a pretty crowded place, so I understand. Stephen Detroit said, hi, Carey, how are you? You helped me a lot yesterday. The disk cleanup on my client's laptop completed successfully. Made the laptop slightly faster. Everything works great. Thanks again. The laptop is all fixed. Stephen reached out to me. He's in South Africa. And they had an old, very budgety laptop that was probably, 10 years old. And I understand in South Africa, it's not exactly the tech hub of the world. Their internet's not very fast. Everything's a bit slower overall. And Anyway, that's what I understand about it. I've never been there. And he reached out in an email asking for help. We connected via instant house call and was able to get everything resolved for him. It just took patience. Some of the processes that I do typically take 10 minutes, but on an older machine and with a slower internet connection, the downloads take longer, file extractions take longer, and then executing the commands like Windows updates and things like that takes longer. So what they're saving in money by keeping this old machine alive is what they're paying for in time. But if you're somewhere where you just have more time than money, then that's what, that's just a different lifestyle. In Phoenix, just if you imagine New York or Chicago, Boston, everything's go, go, go. Get out of my way, move, honk, 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 let's go, let's go, let's go. But if you go live out in a more rural area or in other countries that aren't so crowded, or they are crowded, but they're not so wealthy of countries, people have an abundance of time. And so to them, they don't really care. They're not, if the machine ran any faster, they wouldn't use it anymore. They just have they've accustomed to a slower pace of life. I'm accustomed to a much faster pace. But always happy to help out our viewers, our members, and didn't cost them anything. It just, when I set the machine to do a disk cleanup, it was going to run for a few hours. It was that old. But it had never been done. It had over 10 gigs of temp files on a machine that, at its very best, is extremely slow. All that extra 10 gigs was doing was removing some very, very rare disk space. They didn't have a lot of it. And on top of that, slowing already a slow machine down even further. And so to delete those temp files, I don't know how long it took, because I disconnected. It probably took a few hours. That's how slow the machine was. Doing the same exact cleanup on a modern computer would have likely been about 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes tops. But that's why I say, you get what you pay for. And if they can get a little more life out of that old machine, all the best to them. Until such a point that they've had enough with it, it's still working. It's just having a very difficult time. It's only 4 gigs of RAM in there. So still running Windows 10. It's pretty painful, but not uncommon in these other countries. That's kind of the way it is there. Jose Ramos says hello in the chat, as does Linwin Jones saying hello. KD Bousquet said, on a larger scale, I sometimes have to convince doctors and CFOs that their 15-year-old MRI or CT could be upgraded. However, it's still a he says $90 to $1 million in upgrade. End of life can be a tricky business. Well, people's lives are on the line, and it's a very expensive procedure. So if I'm a mechanic and I do front-end alignments, and what I'm using to adjust front-end alignments to adjust the wheels on the car is a machine my father passed on to me in the automotive trade, it's probably not as accurate, and it's probably very skilled labor to know how to use it. But every time I use it, I make money. So it would probably be worth it for me to go ahead and buy a modern machine, where these days they're connected to a computer, everything's shown digitally on the screen, and the adjustments on the car are the same, but nonetheless, the machine is much faster, easier to use, and I could help more customers in the same amount of time and could pay for the new tool, the new piece of equipment very, very quickly. It's something enthusiasts can't wrap their head around. But when you're using something to earn money and you improve that something and that results in you making more money, then that something pays for itself very quickly. And if you want to be cheap and you just want to insist on not upgrading it, then you can only make so much money with it. You can't wave a magic wand and make it work any better. And if that's a choice a business owner makes, it's certainly theirs to make, but one would wonder if they understand math. But it's their choice, it's their business. And in medical fields where CAT scans and MRI machines are so profitable, and often are leased. A lot of times they don't buy these machines, they lease them. But, same with Xerox copy machine, photocopy machines. They don't have to be Xerox. I have a number of clients that are small, medium-sized businesses that have, not just one, but two of these things. And they're, $70,000 to $80,000 a piece. But one client just leases it. The other client buys them used and gets it with a service contract. To each their own. Andy Kane joins us and says hello. 1FB says, after I buy my video. AOO Star Gods, it's really quite nice mini. Thanks for saving my money. Love from France. Oh, right on. Okay, I understand the language there. If I'm sure your English is better than my French. So I think I got the gist of that. Right on. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. We always appreciate feedback from people who actually own it versus people who just read online and then they think they know everything. Oh, yeah, that computer's a piece of crap because these people on Reddit said so. Those may not even have been people on Reddit. That's how bad it is now. Those could have been bots. That could all be spam. Could be a competitor. It could be somebody that's just looking for attention. You have no idea. But when you actually own something and experience it and you want to share that experience with us, we cherish that. That's valuable information for us. And thank you for sharing your experience with us. Doesn't have to be a good experience. It just has to be yours. David Graham said, my friend has an old HP all-in-one. I refuse to work on it. It still has a hybrid hard drive with Windows 10 and it's slower than grass growing with only 4 gigs of memory. Yeah. Well, just because they need to use it doesn't mean you need to. You have every right to say, yeah, I'm not working on that. I've had a number of people reach out to me and it's usually the older the machine is, the more likely they're going to reach out for repair. Newer machines almost never get repair calls. If there's anything, it's a configuration issue. My printer stopped printing, or I can't figure out why my windows used to open like this and now they open like that. They're more tutoring than they are repair. Older machines are more repair and no tutoring. And it's up to you and the kind of work you want to do and how much they're willing to pay you for it. Because a lot of work I don't want to do. If you pay me enough, I'll do it. But I'll be honest, I'm the kind of guy that if you have this old machine sitting here and I tell you that machine it's not worth repairing, and they say, well, too bad, I want to repair it anyway. And I say, well, it's going to cost you, twice as much as what the computer's worth. They say, I don't care. I really, really want this computer to work. I will charge them twice as much, right? I will charge them the amount I quoted. And then I will look on eBay, whatever it is, to just get another one. It's like fooling a little kid when their goldfish dies. You go to the pet store and you buy a new goldfish. They can't tell them apart. And then I'll just collect money off the top as the middleman, since they wouldn't do it for themselves. It's still a service I provide. They'll never even know. I mean, I'll usually tell them. I'll just say, hey, look, I can replace this with the exact same unit for the price we discussed. And then I'll even give you the old one if you want to use it for spare parts in the future, because you're going to need it. I don't know when, but it won't be long. So you get 2 laptops now. You can keep your old one for spare parts. If you want to leave the data on it, it also works as a backup should you have a failure. At least, depending on how much more new data they're adding, how often, a backup may become useless sooner rather than later, or not. And I still stick to the same price regardless of we do the actual repair or we just replace it. So my question is, which one's easier for me? Which one's going to get this back to the customer faster and without a call back because the repair wasn't done right, or something was missed? And going on eBay, for example, and just buying a used one, 8 out of 10 times that's the solution. It's the same cost. Katie Bousquet is talking about the medical equipment. He says he does a lot of preventive maintenance on them. He does his best to let his customer know where they can save money or upgrade them. Yeah, you're my kind of tech. That's it exactly. You know, despite all the money hospitals make, or charge rather, they don't make a lot of money. With all the insurance and all of the third-party companies like MRI machines and such, there's been a couple of hospitals, especially in the last couple of years, that have to close down. They just can't. They don't have any operating expenses. They could bring in $250 million, and they're still short. Jorge joins us from Puerto Rico. Welcome in. Welcome in. Steven says he's returning the laptop to the client tomorrow. He says, I learn a lot from YouTube, and I enjoy your channel. Well, we enjoy having you here, and we love people that want to learn. Sometimes we get people in the chat that want to teach, and we don't know who they are, why they think anything they're offering is of any value to us until we can first establish what your credentials are. And if your credentials are because I said so, have a nice day. You know what I mean? But, you know, I'm intended to share my experience here as a professional technician over 35 years in the industry. I don't have to. I choose to. And I use my real name and show my real face, and you can go on Amazon and see the books I've written, and you can Google my name and see the articles I've written, or the national radio show host, nationwide computer talk show that I hosted for over 6 years, coast to coast. Was you know, I taught at the school. I was a teacher at the college. You can verify I am who I say I am. If I don't use my real name and or I don't show you my face, why in the world would you believe anything I'm telling you? I wouldn't if I were you. It might be fun entertainment, but I wouldn't take it seriously. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine conducting any business transaction where the person won't show their face or tell you their name, even if it's a name of a store? All right? Can you imagine you go to school and your teacher says, I'm going to wear a ski mask and my name is Mr. Anonymous, and today I'm going to teach you about his... Not going to happen. That teacher will be fired out of that school in 5 minutes. There's, you know, this argument of freedom of speech without any accountability. And, you know, if you got nothing else to do and you want to stand on a corner and scream at the clouds, you're totally allowed to do that here in America. But nobody's required to hear you. You're not required to be listened to. It is not the law that you have the right to be heard. You don't have any right to be heard. You have a right to speak. There's a very different thing there. And then when people want to be caustic in their speech, but they want to hide their identity, that tells you they know exactly what they're doing is wrong, and they're afraid of repercussions, or they're just looking to get a reaction out of people because they find it to be funny. And the best thing you can do is just ignore them. Just walk on by. Because if you try and talk to them, if you try and reason with them, it's like wrestling with a pig in the mud. After a while, you're going to realize the pig is loving it. It's on you, though. You choose. That's your freedom to choose whether to engage with a pig in the mud or to just walk by the pen. And so that's what a lot of these content creators that disguise themselves will say. It's my freedom. Absolutely. It's my right. It absolutely is. And it's my right that you're a clown. That's what I think. That's my right. You're a clown, and I'm not taking you seriously. You might be entertaining, but I'm not really learning anything from a clown. I might be laughing at the clown. I might be ignoring the clown, but I'm not learning anything from a clown. I don't think any of us ever have. And that's their right to be a clown. Nothing wrong with it. Just don't have any, I don't personally see any value in that. Just looking here in the chat. Katie Bousquet says, Carey, are there any computers out there connected to an MRI and a CT machine that has the level of cleanliness and organization. Oh, he says, I misread his statement. Just know, Carey, there are PCs out there connected to an MRI and a CAT scan machine that have the level of cleanliness and organization even I would approve of. I learned from the best. Thank you. One would hope. One would hope. You know, there's nothing worse than going to any kind of a medical facility and seeing it's not clean, right? I don't care if it's a doctor's examination room. They open up the cabinet and it's just a big mess of medical equipment and tongue suppressors and Q-tips just laying about. You're not putting that in my mouth or in my body. That's disgusting. And they're like moving stuff around trying to find something. You know, that might work in your junk drawer at home, not in a medical facility, and I would expect nothing less. Mark Gaines says to check my mail. All righty, let's check it. Mark Leibowitz sent us an email. Let's get to that in a minute. First of all, let's get to Mark Gaines. Contributes $31.58 because he says Amazon's not working, so here's a contribution for today's show via PayPal. And Paul Vircher also sends an Amazon gift card here. He says Happy Father's Day with a $10 Amazon gift card. Paul, thank you. Mark, thank you as well.
I was right in the middle of going through because there was like a whole bunch of emails, and I was like trying to go through them one by one. So you caught it before I came down.
Oh, good, because I just noticed Frankie B sent us a very generous PayPal contribution again. Yeah. Right on. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank
Frankie.
you, everybody. We appreciate the support so much.
Frankie says, this is a gift for you to use as you want. Thank you for the great job you did on my mini PC. Working on your computer is a pleasure. I kind of wish Frankie had more computer problems.
I know, right?
Damn it, I fixed it too good.
You did.
Thank you, Frankie. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mark Gaines. And Mark Leibowitz sent us an email here, and he said, the other day I was ranting on about Amazon Vine reviewers who get the product for free, and they generally always give it 5 stars because they want to keep getting more free products. He says, I'm not going to say that those aren't reasons to take Amazon Vine reviews without a grain of sugar, because you probably should be taking them with a box of salt. But we should be saying this for the right reasons. Now, speaking as a former Vine reviewer, and yes, I'll tell you why I'm a former Vine reviewer. Here's the straight dope based on the information that I had to read and agree to in order to become an Amazon Vine reviewer. First and foremost, the Vine program is administered by Amazon and Amazon alone. And when you order a product from the Vine program, the manufacturers and sellers have no idea you exist, much less who you are. What a Vine reviewer orders and what he says in his or her reviews are between him and Amazon. The manufacturers have no say in the matter. The program is intended to produce honest reviews. As an Amazon Vine reviewer, I was able to be honest and say whatever I wanted to the extent that it didn't violate Amazon's review policies, which are the same policies applied to anyone else's reviews. So here's what's wrong with the program according to Mark Leibowitz. 1, they want your review quickly. They're not going to sit around and wait for it. When they send you the product, don't dilly-dally and procrastinate. When you get the product, you review the product, you move on to the next one. Remember, I keep talking about, we got to get things moving. You don't have all day. Enthusiasts don't have that mentality. They don't comprehend it because they don't have to. They go, what are you talking about? Why can't you just slow down? I'm not allowed to. I'm doing this for a living, guys. When you just sit at home and enjoy your stuff, you're not doing anything wrong, but you need to understand that's not what we're doing. So we have a different reason for why we're doing what we're doing. You're doing it for fun. We're doing it to make money. It's not like you're going to profit more from having more fun, but I do profit more by getting more done faster. So anyway, because the problem is, you know, you don't have much time to spend with the product before you review it. They want you to review it quickly. So If you fail to produce a review in short order, you get dropped from the program if you're taking too long. He says, I found that out because I was dropped as an Amazon Vine reviewer. Once you've been dropped, you're unlikely to be ever invited back again. At least he hasn't been invited back so far. Now, you can't search for, let's say, minis for a mini PC on Amazon and then buy it under the Amazon Vine program. That's not how it works. The manufacturers and the sellers, they contact Amazon, and they have a limited number of their products made available to Vine reviewers. And those products are presented to Vine reviewers in a sort of a mini catalog, which, by the way, he says is a pain in the butt to search it because you can go so buggy-eyed trying to navigate. You won't see many products with familiar brand names available in that catalog, and for good reason. Brands with solid products and strong marketing departments have no reason to submit products to Amazon Vine for random, unbiased reviews. As I've currently stated so often, he's referring to me, producers want advertisements, they don't want real reviews. Much less honest reviews. They want to hear what they want to hear. They don't want truth in many cases. So as a Vine reviewer, you'll be mostly reviewing unknown products with no track records. These companies have no history. So you don't know if you're dealing with a fly-by-night company, a scammer, and you know, as you're doing a review, you want to get to the nitty-gritty if you have any pride or integrity in the quality and thoroughness of your review. But that's mostly what's available in the Vine catalog, of these kind of products. Now, can you really give an honest review of an unknown product with no track record if you haven't been given at least a few months to live with it? Preferably even longer, just to see what it's like to live with and see how it holds up over time. Well, the manufacturer isn't going to be selling any, are they? Without the reason they want the review is to sell more products now. They don't want to wait 3 months to sell products. He says, no, well, you can say what you want about the products you review. My suspicion is if your default is to be a negative Nelly, you'll probably also be dropped from the program. And I can't say that with certainty because I got dropped for not producing enough reviews, not for being too negative. And yes, that's the reason they told me they dropped me. But just as someone who's always giving 5 stars with no supporting detail, just the same as somebody who's giving reviews that are always negative, is also suspect. At the same time, depending on what you're reviewing, it's theoretically possible that all you ever get are shoddy products, and it would be a shame to be dropped for that. So how did Vine work out for me? Well, I was a Vine reviewer. It was a mixed bag. I reviewed some pretty cool products, and I really liked some of them. I reviewed a chef's knife from a company I've never heard of, and I liked it so much that I bought the same knife for 2 of my daughters. I still have mine. It still works great. I received a Powerline network transceiver that's still in use by a client 5 to 6 years later. On the other hand, the allegedly windproof umbrella was a bit of a disappointment. There were probably a dozen others that I'm forgetting, and no, none of the products I just mentioned were market success stories. I don't think any of them are available for sale anymore. So yes, continuing being skeptical of Vine reviewers, or continue, he says. But be skeptical for the right reasons, which I've just provided. Well, we appreciate the feedback, Mark. I've never been a Vine reviewer, and I've never been interested in being a Vine reviewer. I think my time is worth more than whatever the product, you know. Here, review these $10 socks. No. I'd rather just buy the socks, and I'll review them on my own if I feel like it. But to each their own. Some people just want to get free stuff, and it doesn't matter what it is. I've never understood the mentality. I first noticed that at expos like CES. People would get keychains and flashlights and just stupid stuff. And I had a friend of mine that used to go to the Comdex show, and we're talking back in the 90s. And he would fly out there, and he would bring an empty suitcase. And I said, you're not putting anything in? He goes, no, that's for all the free stuff I get. The t-shirts that don't fit, all the plastic stuff, all the junk. He collects it all. He walks the floor with a big bag, And he does that for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And every day he dumps the bag into that suitcase. And then usually the suitcase is too full to close, and he'll already start throwing it out at the hotel room. So then why did you pick it up to begin with? Why didn't you just leave it? It's like they can't help themselves. It's free. I got to have it. Okay. I don't get it. You know, book of matches. Do you smoke? No. I mean, I understand not having a book of matches, but do you need 27 books of matches? Pens? Writing pens? Come home with about 4 dozen of those. How many can you use? How many of them are you going to throw away? Because by the time you actually go to use it, the ink is dried out and it's no good anymore. All you're doing is procrastinating, putting it into the trash. You'd have been better off not going through all the labor of going and waiting in line at these booths to get the crap, to then haul it back, walk it back to your hotel room, and then fill up the suitcase, carry the suitcase, load it onto the plane, collect it, load it into the car, take it home, unload it, organize all of it, and then slowly but surely over the next few years start throwing every piece of it into the landfill. You could have just cut out the middleman and just dumped it in the garbage while you were there. Or better yet, not even picked it up. People go crazy for free nonsense. They'll give away stickers. People line up for stickers. What are you, 12? I couldn't go to Comdex. I just thought it was ridiculous and stupid. And CES, it's more of the same nonsense. You know, they might give away like little foam earplugs. Maybe they're demonstrating something that's very loud. You walk into this room and they're like, you know, here's an example of this and here's your free earplugs. They're disposable. Once they've been in your ears, you're supposed to throw them away. And people would like pick up extra little boxes. I could use these for sleeping. They never do. You know who's famous for this? You ever heard of a comedian named Gilbert Gottfried? Gilbert would travel all over the world, mostly United States. And wherever he's going to perform his stand-up comedy, he's staying at a hotel. And anything the hotel included as amenities for the room, which could be toothpaste, soap, it could be combs, there could be, he'd even go to the front desk and ask, because some items like, you know, hey, I forgot my toothbrush. Oh, here you go. All you gotta do is ask for it, but they don't give it to you by default. Shampoo, all that. He would collect it and he would bring it home. And his wife realized he has a mental condition and you can't, he won't stop. He just, as wealthy as he was, he's still taking the free bar of soap. He's still taking the free shampoo. He's still taking the hairnet that he never wears in the shower. He can't help himself. It's a mental disorder. And she said, I wanted him to throw this stuff out. We're running out of room. They went out and paid for suitcases. The suitcase costs more than everything he's putting in it, so that they could load the suitcase up with all this stuff, slide it under the bed. And they had so many suitcases under the bed, you know, they had to have a sit-down talk about it. And ultimately, the only solution was to continue to find other spaces to buy more suitcases. He could not stop. To his dying day, it's an illness. It's a serious mental illness. And, you know, it's one thing to just use that as an example, but it's another thing when you see 100,000 people and a large portion of them are all just grabbing free crap just because they can. And they're all doing this. And I want no part of it. Want no part of it. I don't know what that is, but it scares the heck out of me when I see it. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody that was that way was in the news for like murdering people. It's like a scary psychological. I'm not saying they're violent, but if that happened, it would totally make sense to me. Yeah, that checks out. You know, they weren't right in the head this way. It makes sense they weren't right in the head this way either. But it scares me. Pack rats, hoarders. It's a serious disease. What got me on that, I forgot. Mark Leibowitz said he recommended a Nemo laptop to one of his clients last week, replacing a Dell Inspiron that wasn't old but was heavily damaged. Nemo got the laptop here in 2 days flat, and I'm about to start setting it up. Yeah, we haven't heard any bad stories with Nemo. Anytime there's a problem, Nemo's quick to correct it. And they're one of those companies most people have never heard of before. Brian Weber says hello. Andy W6AD said his grandson is a Vine reviewer, and everything Mark said is true. Honest reviews with pictures are valued. The more detailed the review, the better. He's now gold level, so he gets to choose from better stuff. Mark Leibowitz says, yep, you're not going to be living high on the hog doing Amazon Vine. I did it because I was invited and thought it would be a fun experience. I wasn't upset when I got dropped. Nothing wrong with having an experience. And if you ride it out until the ride is over, or you jump off the ride early, whatever you want, But when I read those Vine reviews, I absolutely consider the fact that they didn't spend their hard-earned money. And that, right out of the gate, is a flaw in the review process. Here's what I'd like to see. I would like to see people, I'm not quite sure how well this will work out either, but essentially you buy the product, and then if you review it, you get reimbursed, regardless of the review, regardless of the picture. I think that the more thorough the review is, the more you should be compensated. So if I was writing an article as a journalist, a tech journalist for a tech magazine, I'm paid per word. They say, Carey, we need a 2,000-word article from you. Then I know what a 2,000-word article pays. It pays the same for all of us. I don't get paid differently than anybody else. Carey, we need a 500-word article from you. That pays about a quarter as much. I don't think it's exactly that, but it depends if you're paid per word. So I would love to see a system where you're paid per word with a minimum number of words, first of all, before you even qualify for any reimbursement. So that's, you can't just say, it's good, I like it. No, it's got to have meaningful content. It needs to at least be a paragraph. It needs, if you include pictures, that'll also add value to the point of a maximum value of the price of the product. So if you've written a full page and it's all thorough and accurate, not book report word count. Remember? It was a very, 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 very cold day. And I was really, 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 really cold. Here's my 200-word book report teacher. Come on. You guys remember this, right? That ain't going to work. So the problem nowadays, however, is you can go to your favorite chatbot, AI chatbot, and ask it to write the review for you. And then all you have to do is copy and paste that and just rephrase a couple of things so it's not so obvious. It's, it'll do 85% of the work for you. And then all you need to do is just say, okay, well, I don't agree with this statement, or this isn't how I would say that. Rewrite that sentence, and you're just proofreading, right? Just what a proofreader does. So consider that your rough draft. And then if there's something it doesn't bring up, you can ask the ChatGPT or the chatbot to, say, talk to me about the warranty or the history of the company, or you can just choose to do that yourself. And that's where we're heading. So now even that price per word model now, because of AI chatbots, it's probably too little too late at this time, unfortunately. I don't have the solution for that. I have to kick some ideas around and see if there's another way that we could evaluate products for others to consider when buying. The only other way would be to just have an unbiased third party like Consumer Reports magazine. I think they can be fully trusted. I don't always agree with them, but I trust that they don't have an agenda. There's no advertising, there's no sponsors, and they buy everything they review. They won't accept anything for free. So that in and of itself is noble and respectable. Even if I don't agree with it, I understand the agenda they had when they did it, which was to present a review in the most impartial way possible, and how to ensure your readers that there was no benefit for you to say good things or bad things. It's just how you feel. So there were plenty of things that I would see in Consumer Reports magazine where I said, these people must be out of their minds. They're reviewing something as good that's clearly terrible because their scale of measurement is mathematical. Well, this vacuum will suck up so many CFM of air. Okay, but it's not easy to use. It's, you know, it's difficult to get it in the corners. The hose is a bit short. It's difficult to place it somewhere to store it. They don't often talk about stuff like that, the living with it part. They talk about the science part, mostly. And that's all well and good if you're a robot, but if you're a human with feelings, those reviews in Consumer Reports tend to leave the feelings out because they're too subjective. They're trying to be objective. But how can you be objective about how you feel? Because what you feel about something, I may feel the opposite. You're going to be having somebody disagree with you. So I think that's the logic behind it, and even that's flawed. So at the end of the day, the conclusion I've come to is if you show an interest in something, buy it from a reputable site that has 30-day hassle-free returns that'll cost you nothing to get a full 100% money-back refund. That's Amazon. And if you say, yeah, well, Amazon's going to charge me $10 more for this than this other website, but the other website may not return it. The other website may not get it to your door overnight. The other website may charge you a restocking fee. All of a sudden, a $10 insurance policy from Amazon is a bargain all day long. Now, if you're going to buy a second one, you say, oh, I bought it off Amazon. I paid the extra $10. I'm happy with it. I want to buy another one. Then go buy the cheap one, correct? Because you know your odds of returning it aren't. You don't mind. You don't need it right away. You're not likely going to return it. You want to save the $10. That would make sense. So there's not like just a hardcore one-size-fits-all solution depending on what you're expecting to spend and what your odds are of returning it. Katie Bousquet said, as someone who went from being an enthusiast to a career in engineering, there is a 100% difference. I found that out very quickly. Yeah, it's definitely not any debate to be had. Enthusiasts just having fun. You know, if you want to go out in the yard and play football with your friends, and you think that's the same as what players in the NFL are doing, you're welcome to think that. If you think if it's raining outside or it's sunny outside, it doesn't matter, would suggest to me you don't work outdoors. You don't have to go out there and do road construction in the rain or in the heat. So what do you care? But when you're responsible for it and you're paid for it, you'll care. There's nothing you can argue about because you're only arguing for your own limitations if you want to argue about that. And I see that a lot. I see people argue for their own limitations. Okay, you're allowed to have your limitations. It doesn't bother me. Andy mentions that Vine reviewers are expected to pay income tax on the value of the items they receive. Yeah, you know, I never thought of that, but it makes sense. Rat Zeus in the chat room says heating is the most important factor here. I think some heat destroyed PCBs on these mini PCs. I've never seen that in my entire career. I've seen people on the internet talking about ghost stories. They talk about Bigfoot. They talk about Sasquatch, Chupacabra. They talk about the Loch Ness Monster, but they can't show me one. They can't demonstrate one. And while heat-related problems can occur, the quality of electronics today is such that it's very, very rare. No one is immune from a part failure. Sometimes heat-related problems are caused by unknown power spikes and other issues that the lack of understanding the proper forensics involved in determining the actual cause does not align with what people, especially enthusiasts, want to believe. You'd be hard-pressed to find a professional in this industry that would agree with what you said. That is a statement that only comes from social media. It doesn't come from professionals. Now, there have been products that were poorly designed, and they don't usually stay on the market very long because they can't afford to. A company I want you to think about it logically. Like if this computer was constantly overheating and failing, they'd have to replace it under warranty. And if the one they replaced under warranty heated up and failed, they'd have to replace it under warranty. Do you know how money works? Do you know how much money they make off one of these? Do you know how much money it costs to replace it? When you do the math, this company won't be a company very much longer. So the market has a way to self-balance where things like that, they can exist, but they won't exist very long. If it's a design flaw, they better get it fixed before they go out of business. That's it. You can't say all mini PCs have heat problems. That's ignorance. That's complete lack of any experience. And that's choosing to believe in more of a religious thought than it is in actual science. And you're welcome to believe any nonsense you want, but I would ask you to show me evidence. And until I see evidence, sorry, coming from a rando in a chat room we've never seen before, I don't take your word for anything. But when you want to establish who you are with some evidence that we can verify you're an expert in the field, when you want to show us video of a problem and an example of demonstrating exactly why that's a heat issue, I would love to watch it. But if you don't want to do the work, then all you're doing is just talking. I just want you to bear in mind, I don't do that. I come from a place of experience, and I respect other people who come, not that people who say, people I can verify. You can look up Mark Leibowitz's name, you can look up his business, you can see how long he's been around, right? But it's just some random person online. I would strongly recommend that you don't expect anybody to actually take anything you say critically with any sort of authority that you don't have until you can prove otherwise. But you're welcome to believe in all that stuff. It doesn't mean you're right, and it doesn't mean that you're going to convince anybody. But I wouldn't be in business today if what you said was true, nor would these mini PC companies. If any of the mini PC companies had this epidemic of a problem, they don't exist today. They're gone. It's not a sustainable business model. But, to each their own. And, the people that you're reading online that are, it's called hearsay. It's gossip. In the 1970s, when I was a child growing up, the men, it was a pretty chauvinistic time. I don't even think women were allowed to have credit cards in the 1970s without their husbands co-signing on it. I think it was around the middle of the 1970s before women in the United States were allowed to have their own credit card with their own name on it, without the husband's signature. And so women generally stayed at home. They raised the kids. They were homemakers, and they would gossip on the phone because they had nothing to do all day with the other home wives. Did you hear what Sally did? Did you know? Well, that's what social media is today. That's all it is. And it's combined, with factual information too. But there's a lot of gossip. And if I were you, I wouldn't believe any of it without any proof, unless it's coming from a reputable source. Just because you read something online. There's a famous quote: you should never believe anything you read online. You know who said that? Abraham Lincoln. I crack myself up. Every mini PC is made in China. There's not an exception. You can't say it was a cheap Chinese one. They're all cheap Chinese ones. Even the Apples. I think Apple did move their manufacturing to Vietnam, but it's all Asia, right? So you can't just throw a blanket. It's almost like technological racism. There's good products, there's bad products. They all come from the same place. So life's not that simple. It'd be nice if it was, though. Yeah, Andy's mentioning he's not seen a mini PC that ran so hot as the printed circuit board. It's all good. Then he wants to know, this is Kratzazus, which brands of mini PC do I like? Well, overall, I like minis for them the best because they have the best variety to choose from. They sell dozens of different models at any given time. Everybody else only sells a handful of models, depending on the time of year, which models they are. That doesn't mean they're worse or worse value. Sometimes they are. Depends on the model. Some companies like Ace Magic and Camrui are really focused on the budget and mid-range. Some companies like Asus are focused on the high-end and expensive minis. And then you've got Minis Forum, which kind of stands on its own with unique designs that nobody has cloned, as well as the cookie-cutter designs from budget to mid-range to high-end to gaming PCs, including keyboards and tablets and portable monitors. Minis Forum is the most amount of variety that is consistently made well, consistently, aggressively priced with good support. So they're my first choice. But that doesn't mean other manufacturers don't have very good models as well. And that's why we do these reviews, right? So like this, we paid for this with our memberships from our viewers. That's how we do this. Glorlin didn't pay us any money. We paid them money to buy it. Then we say whatever the hell we want to about it. I want to be honest. I want to tell you as a computer technician that works in this industry, if I would recommend this to one of my customers, because if it doesn't work well, they're going to blame me for it because they trusted me. They said, gee, Carey, I could go to Best Buy or I could go to Amazon and buy a computer, but I want you to do it for me because you know more about it than I do. And if I turn around and deliver something like this to their desk and it's not good, they'll probably not hire me ever again or ask for my advice ever again. So I have to find a new customer. I have to find another way to make a living. And all I'm doing is I'm turning the camera on and I'm showing you how I evaluate this. And under the right circumstances, I might recommend it. I mean, if somebody was very limited in funds, they were running an obsolete operating system that does not get any more Windows updates, and they needed something basic and simple, this would fit the bill. But they would be made aware right out of the gate, don't expect much. Right? It's new, it'll be secure. If you have problems with it, it's got a warranty. I don't know, how long the warranty process is for sending something in and returning it. It's probably only going to have a few years of life in it when it's new because it's already 6 years old. Or you could consider just using your phone. If you're in that situation, maybe it's not best for you to buy any more PCs. If money's that tight, maybe it'd be best for you to find another solution, such as hooking your phone up to a monitor if you needed a bigger screen. That would be cheaper and faster and last longer and more secure. It really depends on the user. I mean, I want a Rolls Royce. I will never own one in my life. It doesn't mean I don't want it. I don't have the financial means to afford it. And even if I could, I don't have the financial means to pay for the registration, the insurance, or so much as an oil change. By the way, the same oil goes in a Rolls Royce that goes into your Honda Civic, but it's about $300, $600 to do an oil change on a Rolls Royce. And it's about $60 to do the oil change on this Honda Civic. So even if I could afford a Rolls Royce, a used one, I'll give you a real world example. You can buy a Maserati that's $115,000. It's only about 5 years old for about $35,000. It's a bargain. The car's like brand new. But oil changes, brakes, insurance, maintenance cost, none of that changes. You're not going to be able to afford it. If you think I'm getting a really good deal, I'm getting a Maserati for this price, your cost of ownership on that would pay for 2 or 3 Honda Civics every year. So depends how important you want to be seen by the public. I want people to see me in my Maserati. That's a mental state that a psychologist could help you with. That would be much cheaper than the car. But people, I don't need to see a psychologist. Yeah, you do. You can't. You ask a psychologist if they agree with you. No, why would I do that? Because you don't want to know the truth. That's why you're not going to do that. That's ridiculous. I don't need to see a psychologist. You don't need to see one, but it would be in your best interest if you did. Take somebody who doesn't know you, knows nothing about you, has no dog in the race, and tell them how important it is for you to own a Maserati that you can't afford, and listen to what they have to say to you. And if you accept the help, you'll be better for it. And if you say, well, that psychologist is a dummy, go see another one. After a while, when you keep hearing the same thing over and over again, you might just realize people are trying to help you. And if you refuse to believe you need the help, it's sort of like the Black Knight in Monty Python, you know, takes off an arm, guy still wants to fight, takes off another arm, the guy still wants to fight, takes off a leg, the guy still wants to fight, cuts off the guy's leg, he's just a torso and a head, and he's like, come back here, I'll bite your legs off. Some people are just going to live their lives that way, and you're allowed to. I mean, I feel sorry for those people, but I'm allowed to. There's a lot of people online that just don't know what the hell they're talking about. And freedom of speech is freedom to lie. Freedom of speech is freedom to say things to get attention, right? Some YouTube content creator has no idea what he or she is talking about, can make all kinds of false claims, and you can choose to believe them. That's all legal. Keep that in mind. There's nobody is policing YouTube or social media for facts or evidence. And just because somebody says something doesn't mean that has anything to do with you. You don't know the environment and the circumstances. That usually is information left out if it doesn't meet the content creator's agenda. If you're upset about something and you're angry and you want to talk about how terrible this company's products are, but you have nothing good to say, that's a big warning sign. That's like, okay, then why did you even engage with them to begin with? There must have been something you liked about them. And then it's human nature to just want to feel justified. But to be more impartial like a judge, to me, would be a much more noble community service. To say, I really like this, and I really like that, and I really like this, but I didn't like this, and I didn't like that. Regardless, if you're happy or you're upset, it should always be impartial. You should always find something good to say when you're going to say something bad, and you should always find something bad to say when you're going to find something good. So, for example, there's nothing wrong with this mini PC. There's nothing wrong with it. Overall, I mean, for under $300, you'd be hard-pressed to get anything like this at this price. On the other hand, there's also a lot to be concerned about. How much life is left in it? What's the support like? We don't know. So I have some anxiety about that. And if that anxiety bothers you too, you might want to avoid it, even though there's really nothing I can pinpoint right now today to complain about here, other than it's already 6 years old. But if it wasn't 6 years old, it also wouldn't be $290. You got to pick one or the other. You can't have both. How's that going to work? And if you're willing to understand what your sacrifices are to get that cheaper price, or what your sacrifices are in paying more to have something much more powerful, much more modern, verified support, just set your expectations accordingly and you'll be less likely to buy a bad review. It's not the company's necessarily. It's not always the company's fault that you convinced yourself of your own expectations that had nothing to do with reality, and then you got angry when your imaginary expectations didn't meet reality. Whose fault is that? I mean, if you were going to write a review on yourself, would you write a good review or would you write a bad one? Wonder how honest you'd be. Steve Miller says, Carey's channel is one of the few tech channels on YouTube that actually educates you on the realities of how to achieve success in the IT world. Most of the other people are about gaming. Yeah, but YouTube is mostly about like if you look at who is watching YouTube, people at home, not people at work, generally speaking. And what are the people at home doing? They're playing video games. So if you want a lot of views, you cater to the viewers. I don't do this for the views. I'm not, listen, it would be great if the world suddenly wanted to be educated, but they don't. The world wants to be entertained. That's what they want. And they want you to do it fast. Do it quick. They have the attention span of a fly. And if you can't grab their attention in the first few seconds, they're also not shy about saying you talk too much. I didn't ask you to watch my videos. I put them up there. You voluntarily chose to click it. That's your problem. I'm paid the same. It doesn't matter to me. And, you know, I really appreciate those very few viewers on YouTube that see the value in what I'm doing, because you guys represent just a fraction of 1%, just a teeny tiny fraction of the most common YouTube viewer. The most common YouTube viewer has no loyalty to any content creator. They're fickle, they're judgmental, they're very vocal in many cases, and they can be very critical. I don't need that in my life. I don't need that level of scrutiny. Unless I can scrutinize them back, I have no interest in any value of what they have to say. If somebody wants to be nice, there's no harm in that. If they want to be encouraging, that's great. It's very kind. If they don't want to do that and they don't want to expose who they are so I can't return the favor, then that's a one-way road that I'm shutting down, right? I'm just saying, you're not allowed. If I invite you into my home as a guest and you start insulting my house, you can get the hell out. And if you don't like it, don't come in. You can voluntarily walk yourself right out the door. Just because I invited you in doesn't entitle you to insult me, discourage me, disparage me. There's certain societal norms and decorums that if we want to be civilized and we want to be community driven, we need to help each other. Attacking and tearing each other down, whoever starts that, they're the problem. And they're not breaking any laws. And I'm not breaking any laws by banning them out of this place. We don't need them here. We're stronger without them. They have nothing constructive, nothing useful to add. They never will. That's who they'll be their whole lives. As far as I'm concerned, they'll never change. We'll never miss them. We've been running since 2008 here on YouTube, 2008, 2009. This whole time we've been doing fine without them. And we'll do fine without them tomorrow. I don't know why they think they're so important, but we make it very clear. If they want to be kind, if they want to be supportive, they're always welcome here. We're happy to have them. But when it comes to the average YouTube viewer, they are not that. Either they won't speak at all, they don't want any sense of community, or they're impatient, intolerant, judgmental, and punitive. And we don't want them here. They can go do that. Go outside and play. That's what my parents would tell me. You go outside and play. We're indoors here. That's the rules I run my channel by. And if they don't like it, they got no authority. So they can not like it all they want. Until they're in a position of power or authority, they're just a dog barking outside. Meaningless noise. So that's why I do this. I do this for the very small percentage of YouTube viewers who see the value in it, and that's you guys. And I appreciate each and every one of you. That's why I'm here. Hey, Frankie B says hello in the chat room. Thank you again for your very generous contribution, Frankie. You're the man. Frankie joins us out of New York. Andy said he once had a mini PC that ran so hot the CPU went to thermal throttling, so it slowed down. That's about the worst. Yeah. Well, I think we all experience that. You push it hard enough, you know, but it won't burn out or anything. He goes, it was during a stress test and it was very hot in here. It was over 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, well, I mean, that's why you stress test it, right? It's not any real world usage. That's just, let's see what it'll do before it breaks. He says it was a GMK Tech G3 Plus, an Intel N150. Carey reviewed it. It was as cheap as $125 last year. When do I stream? I stream every Friday and Sunday. We go live at 1 o'clock. Mondays we go live at 1 o'clock for our members. Everybody you see in green there supports us. They're our sponsors here. We don't have any corporate sponsors. We've partnered up with VIP-URCDKEY, so if you're looking for an inexpensive but legal Windows or Office license key, these are real license keys that sell for a fraction of what Microsoft wants to charge you for them. They're not any different. They're not stolen, they're not counterfeit, there's none of that. I needed it for my business so I could, be competitive with other PC sellers. And other PC sellers won't tell you where they get their operating system from. Why would they? A restaurant generally won't tell you where they're buying their ingredients. It's none of your business. But I do. I'll be fully transparent. I had to find a legal, optional source of Windows and Office keys that would help me be more competitive in my marketplace. And man, I got burned by a lot of scammers. But I only bought from them once. And I did it because I had to. I don't have to tell you, but I'm going to. I bought it from VIP-URCDKEY, actually the parent company. And if you look in my video notes below my videos, like here's a video from a couple months ago. When you scroll below the video and you see that first box on the left right there that my mouse is on, click the More button. That has all the links to everything we're talking about in the video, like that particular mini PC, if it's on Amazon, the manufacturer's page. And there are also the links for the Windows and Office license keys. So like right now, you can pick up Office 2024 for around $14. That's crazy cheap. So you click on the link and it'll take you right to VIP-URCDKEY. Now you could also just go to URCDKEY, VIP by hand and search for it yourself if you want to waste your time. I'm not making any commission on this. So you want to buy it and save money? Buy it. You don't? Don't. Makes no difference to me. Furthermore, not only am I not making a commission on it, I stand behind that you will not be scammed. I will personally make it right. By entering the coupon code of Carey there, the promotion code, see how the price just went down? Then submit your order. You're going to submit your order no differently than you do on any other website you've ever ordered from. Pick your payment method, fill out the online form. Within 2 minutes, you're going to get an email with a download link to the product if you need it, and your activation key. If you have any problems, they have 24/7 tech support, and they give you that. They offer it for 6 months after the sale. I don't believe there's a key seller on the planet that does that. I don't believe there's another content creator on the planet that will back you up if there's any problems. So if you do need a Windows or Office key and you have a problem, their support will help you. If their support doesn't, you reach out to me directly. See, here's the thing. We always hold everybody accountable. So if you're trying to scam, we're going to call you out. If you're doing everything right and they have dropped the ball, then I will step in and I will either personally refund your money or personally provide you the product key. And if I have to do that, you better believe VIP-URCDKEY is going to hear it and they're going to be put on notice. If it happens 2 more times, we're not going to work together anymore. They have more to lose than I do. So you understand there's no game being played here. I have a business to run and I'm not going to throw away my business over a license key to save $2. Okay? And I'm not going to lose my viewers and lose their trust over a $10 license key or a $20. That's not, that will cost me way more in the long run. So I'd rather refund your money, keep your trust, and find a more reputable seller to partner with. But the fact of the matter is, I've not found anybody more reputable than VIP-URCDKEY when it comes to key sales. unless you want to buy directly from Microsoft. But I can't. I can't afford just to add $200 to the price of a computer just for the operating system. And you know, Dell and HP and Lenovo aren't paying that either. And my competitors, they won't tell you. They will not expose that. But I will. That's what makes me different from everybody else. It might be really dumb business-wise, but when it comes to community building and looking after the other people you're sharing the planet with, it's priceless. You always do the right thing. It's your karma, right? And I sleep well at night knowing I provide a service. Whether or not people choose to believe it, I don't care. But when you actually experience it and you want to share that experience with me, many people here will tell you they bought keys over the years from who I'm promoting. And ask them. So, are they a sponsor? No, they're not a sponsor. They're a supporter. Oh, you're a sponsor. Yeah, you are. Everybody in green are sponsors. Absolutely. Let's see. So Steve Miller mentions if you have any problems, I will make it right. I have to. That's my job. My job in real life outside of YouTube is to take care of my customers' needs. And if a customer has a product key that deactivated, do you think I'm going to lose that customer over the price of a product key? I'm going to fix it for them. Because believe me, the fact that they had the problem to begin with is already working against me. There's only so much a customer is going to tolerate. Even if I fix it for free. They're going to say, look, I appreciate you fixed it for free, but I got to be honest, I didn't have these kind of problems with your competitors. So unfortunately, we're just going to, go a different direction with your services. You know that's true. You would do the exact same thing. But because I'm the middleman in the transaction, I'm the one collecting the payment and delivering the product. If you buy something at Best Buy that's not very good, you don't complain to the manufacturer. You take it back to Best Buy and complain to them. They're the ones you gave your money to. They're the ones who gave you the product. And that's exactly what you should do. And that's what everybody typically does. And if you're having a bad experience, this is now the third time you've returned a product. Even though Best Buy doesn't make the product, you may never shop at Best Buy again. Be like, you know what? It's not worth it. I'll go somewhere else. That's my position. I'm in that middle ground to provide the services that customers don't know what choice to make in many cases, so they rely on me to make the choice that meets their needs because they don't know how to do that. And if I make a bad choice, that falls back on me. Even though I didn't make the computer, I recommended it. And there's so much a customer will tolerate before they take their business elsewhere. You charge them too much, they'll take their business elsewhere. You're too slow to respond, they'll take their business elsewhere. You're selling a product that requires a repair for free, but in the meantime, they can't use the computer, they may just go take their business elsewhere. And I treat the YouTube channel here no differently than my real customers. There's no different rules for you guys than there is for my real life business. So I work, I was going to say 2 jobs, I actually work 3 jobs, and YouTube is one of them. And I would say the top 2 are the actual computer repair business, which I've been doing since 1990, late 90s. And I was professionally working in computer repair IT corporations, corporate IT departments. 1991 was the first, was when I left Enthusiast, because I was an enthusiast all through the 1980s of my TRS-80 Model 1, my Atari 400. And I was an enthusiast for about 11 years and became a professional. The minute that they titled me as a computer technician with a paycheck, it wasn't a title I imposed on myself. It was a title that was bestowed upon me by the employer. Judge Reinhold is not a judge. Queen Latifah is not a queen. There are names and there are titles. And you don't get to title yourself. You might get to choose your pronoun. Silly. But when it comes to people saying that they're computer techs, my question is, who bestowed that title to you? If I had a wall full of trophies and I just went to the store and bought trophies, they're completely meaningless. But if the trophy was bestowed to me because I earned it based on somebody else's call, judgment call, that's reality versus manipulation. Daniel says, cheers from Portugal. Hey, right on, Daniel. Thanks for joining us. Frankie B says, this sponsor says, good video and good job. Thank you, Frankie. Frankie's the best. KB was says, I agree with Frankie. Sponsor approved live video. How many channels on YouTube do what we're doing here, where our viewers are our sponsors? Do you know of any? Or any of this size or bigger? As far as I know, we're recreating the rules here, and we have since day one. I don't want to do what everybody else does. What's the point? And I'm not saying what I'm doing is better. That's up to each person to decide. But what I'm doing for a reason, and whether or not you value that reason is up to you. I don't care either way. I'm still doing it. And with our friends in green there, that's just enabling me to do it more often. Where do you think the money came from so we could buy this? Without them, this wouldn't be here. So we also are happy to help folks. You know, Stephen DeToit mentioned he reached out for some help via email, and we connected via instant house call, remote access, and we were able to resolve the problem he was having, and he's in another country. No big deal. If there's anything we can do for you, if you want to reach out to us, you know, unlike other content creators, we respond. We don't just say, oh, reach out to us, leave a comment, and then just ignore you. That's what most YouTube channels do, right? Right? There's some exceptions, but overall, they always go, oh, be sure to leave a comment. They get paid every time you leave a comment. They don't respond. They don't get paid to respond. But we don't do that. If you want to reach out to us, that's our email address. We're very open, very transparent. We have nothing to hide. If we can help you, we're happy to help you. If we can point you in a direction where you can get help, like somebody reaches out and says, I got a drive that failed, I need data recovery. I don't do data recovery, but I know the highest rated on Yelp data recovery service that's been in business over 10 years that only charges $300, which is about, average data recovery is about $1,200 plus. So they start at $300 depending on how big the drive is. And their turnaround time is around 5 days. They keep you informed when they receive your drive, when they analyze the drive, and they give you a list of everything they can get back. You have a choice to say, okay, go forward with the work, or to say, nope, you can't get back what I want. And then there's only like a $95 fee. And they're not a big company. You probably never heard of them before unless you've been watching my channel. And in a circumstance where I got an email like that, I would advise them to go to $300datarecovery.com. They're the most transparent, cheapest, highest rated data recovery company in the United States. And most people never heard of them. So that would be an example where if I couldn't help you personally, I could potentially direct you to the right place, not to the place that I make any commission on. $300 data recovery doesn't pay us any commission. Look, I want to see them succeed, and I want to see you save money and not get ripped off. That builds a loyalty and a trust that you cannot buy. That's what my motive is here. I believe in karma. You keep doing the right thing, you keep doing it, the right things, good things will happen. Barry Klein joins us and says hello. And anybody else saying hello here that I've missed? So for our members, just to reiterate, our members, all those people in green, we do videos Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's only available to members. Those videos are never ever made public. They're a smaller audience, much more intimate chat room. And we talk about what's going on behind the scenes. And sometimes some exclusive repairs and diagnostics that are made only for them, is my way of saying thank you for supporting me. Otherwise, lately we've been on every other day. So the Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Sundays. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Sundays. Mondays are members only. Wednesdays are optional depending on if we have any content, with the industry being slow. But even if I don't have anything to review or to talk about, I'll still be live every Friday and Sunday. The shows always start at 1 p.m. Pacific time, at least until the time changes, the time zone, the daylight savings time. But at least until the fall, 1 p.m. Pacific time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, every week. And we've been doing that now for a couple of years. So we hope you'll come back and join us again. Steve Miller offers an alternative to $300 data recovery, but I can't recommend them. You see, I talked to the owner. I took a tour of the facilities. I can boldly proclaim that they are good enough to earn my endorsement. Anybody else, I don't know anything about them. So if I had a choice between using $300 data recovery and somebody else who's equivalent, they're not equivalent, because I don't know who they are. I don't know their reputation. I don't know what kind of equipment they're using. I don't know what their communication is like. $300 data recovery's communication is outstanding. They stay informed. Pretty much you're going to get an email from them every day. The day they receive the product, the day that they evaluate, the day that they do the recovery, the day it goes out in the mail. You are constantly hearing from them pretty much daily until you receive your data back. And they do that at a cheaper price than I know of anybody else. So if anybody else does that, I don't endorse them because I can't personally speak from experience. But you might choose to endorse who you want to. It shouldn't be anything taken as offense. It's just, why would I do anything to take business away from $300 data recovery when all they've done is shine every single time? Why would I even consider anyone else? Now, if they ever give me a reason, I'll let you know. That's the loyalty I'm talking about. When you can establish loyalty with viewers, with customers, they won't go anywhere else unless you give them a reason to. So there may be other very valid competitors in the space, but I'm not interested. I've already found my solution, and unless that solution changes, I'll let you know. Andy says his mini PC addiction is not a problem anymore. I haven't bought any more. No problem. There you go. Katie Bousquet said you should see if you could tour his place again. I bet he's upgraded some of his equipment. So I'm always invited back. He's made it clear he would love to have me back. The problem is the expense. He's not paying for it. So I have to get in a car. I got to drive for 6 hours. I got to pay for a hotel, right? I cannot help my customers here. I can't feed the pet. I can't feed the cat. I can't broadcast. I'm just kind of stuck. So you got to, essentially, you're going to lose a day. Just go from Phoenix to Los Angeles. That's a day. Because by the time you're done driving, by the time, you've paid for gas and paid for your hotel, then the next day, go on location, do the tour, do the interview, go get something for dinner, go back to the hotel, and on day 3, back in the car, another 6 hours back. You're looking at somewhere around $600 if you go cheap, you're staying at a Motel 6, to over $1,000 depending on what the hotel rates are. In California traffic, I mean, that 6-hour drive could be an 8-hour drive. And all the fires they have around LA all the time, the windstorms, the flooding, it's always something in California. There's some natural disaster happening every freaking month. I can't stand the place. I don't want to be there. It's like going to prison. I don't know why anybody would choose to live there, but still sometimes go. But I'm not paid. So if I go there and I do this and I spend all this money, he's not paying for it. The video won't make enough money to even come close. Video will make $30, $40 in revenue. In the meantime, the other videos I'm not making because I'm gone, I'm also losing revenue. And then he gets all the sales, right? He gets the publicity. I get a video or two out of it. So financially, it's not personal, just financially. It doesn't make any sense. Now, if he was located in Phoenix, that would be a different story entirely. Unfortunately for me, it seems a lot of the other broadcasters and other people in the industry are primarily in Florida. If I moved to Florida, I could probably expand my YouTube presence as well as my computer sales and repair business. But here's a problem. I don't like Florida. It's a great place to visit into winter. You know, if it's January, Florida is a great place to be. But if it's this time of year, I don't want to be anywhere close to the south. Keep me away from Florida and Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi, Tennessee, even the southern states, Louisiana, Texas. No, no, thank you. I don't want to be in Albuquerque. I don't want to be in Utah. I don't want to be in Oklahoma. No, I get the humidity and the heat. And the difference is all those other states don't have as much opportunity as Florida does in my industry, including collaborating with other content creators. There's a ton of them in Florida. Me and Greg Zalazar could work together if he wanted to, if he was just down the street. You know what I mean? Just off the top of my head. Also, a lot of people that want to order computers from me live in Florida for some reason. But I don't want to, and I'm not willing to sacrifice my quality of life for my career. So I'm willing to deal with slower sales, you know, living in Arizona, and at some point would love to get back to Michigan, where I'm from, but that I just can't afford it. And you know, that may be my dying words. I'm sort of stuck where I'm at because the only other place I want to live is Michigan, and I think that's just because that's where I was born and raised, so that's home. You know what I mean? I don't know any better. That was home. Arizona doesn't feel like home to me, but I've been here much longer than I was ever in Michigan. But boy, do I miss Michigan. And we go back for vacations there. We haven't been back in a couple of years, but I never want to come home. I just want to stay. Culture, the way people treat each other, the food is so much better, the air is cleaner, it's more beautiful, the wildlife. Like I remember last time we were there, I saw a caterpillar. I haven't seen a caterpillar in 40 years. I forgot they existed. And the whole time I was in Michigan, I never saw a scorpion or a cactus or a mountain. It was funny to me because when we were in Michigan, there's something that happens there that I forgot. And that is the sun is out and the clouds will move over the sun. And all of a sudden the day goes a little dimmer. And then the day gets bright. And then the day goes dim. And it does this all day. In Arizona, there's no clouds. I mean, in Phoenix, it's just the sun. That's it. It goes up, it goes down. It is very rare that a cloud will ever block the sun. You need to find shade, but there aren't many trees. So just try and stay indoors. Las Vegas is very similar, but they're windier. So at least in what we say is Phoenix is like an oven and Las Vegas is like a hairdryer. The same temperature, but at least you get some wind, you get some break. In Michigan, you get a little bit of cold, a little bit of hot, a little bit of rain, and that could just be on Tuesday. So I miss that. He says, please stay out of Florida. We got too many people here. We just crossed the third largest in population. Yeah, but no problem. Yeah, I agree. Mark Leonosio said, crazy California is why I moved to Las Vegas from San Diego, but now I'm back in San Diego. He says, oh, the irony. San Diego's, I will say, compared to Los Angeles or San Francisco, I would prefer San Diego if those were my three choices. But it's very, very crowded and very, very expensive. They just want to charge you for everything. You want your trash picked up? That's going to cost you more. You want to park your car at the curb? That's going to cost you more. A lot of things like parking that we do for free here, they charge for it. They were charging for parking at Balboa Park, right? They're still doing that? That's insane. It's a publicly paid for park, paid for with tax dollars. But Californians are giving away so much money to people, they don't have any more money. So they're expecting the people with money to pay more so the people without money can continue to get free services. That's one of the things I don't like about California is the level of entitlement. It's great spending other people's money until the other people run out of money. And so California is in a constant financial crisis because of all the money they give away that's coming from other people. And that's not sustainable. It's going to collapse. You can only do that for so long. It might be a nice gesture, but the financials, the math doesn't math. So to be on the receiving end of getting the money is nice, but being the one who's paying the money, not so nice. Depends which side of the fence you're on. Katie Busquets said he'd love to move to Colorado. South Carolina or Texas might be on my list. I really enjoyed the western side of Colorado. The western side of Colorado is beautiful. The eastern side of Colorado is a pit. So in my opinion, when you drive into Colorado, if you're driving east, coming in from the west and you're driving through, that whole western side of Colorado is gorgeous. We're talking Vail, Copper Mountain, Frisco. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Hot Springs. But the minute you cross the middle of Colorado, all the mountains go away, the land flattens out, and as you get closer to Denver, the people get ruder. Things get more expensive, and it's just like being in Phoenix again, except for the weather. In many ways, it's worse in Denver. So I think Denver is a great place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. But on the other hand, I'd be happy to live in Vail. And anywhere on that whole western side of Colorado is absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful weather, rivers, cattle, horses. It's just beautiful. Katie Busquets said Aspen is my favorite. I don't think I've been there, but it's probably like Vail, isn't it? Manuel Heiss says he wouldn't survive in Arizona. I need an AC just to strap on his back. Yeah. It's, who doesn't? Certainly when I was younger, the heat, I could tolerate the heat better. But I just getting older, the heat is, it's brutal. We've already had several people die this year. 3 people just died in the Grand Canyon. It was 109 degrees up north in the Grand Canyon. And 3 tourists who didn't know any better suffered heat stroke and died. Heat stroke is a tricky thing. We've had people that decide they want to go hiking when it's 100 and whatever degrees outside. And I don't know why the government doesn't ban that. But I guess they say if you want to go kill yourself, I guess they allow it. So we've already had multiple children drown. Unfortunately, it's very sad. The parents are unattentive. Somebody finds the body floating in the pool. Every summer, it's the same thing. The only question is how many this year? It'll usually start when the weather gets warm, and that's when you start seeing the death numbers going up from drownings and heat stroke. And the heat stroke is usually from tourists. Nobody advises them and nobody stops them. They don't really comprehend the depth of the heat and the relentless nature of the lack of shade. And they pay the ultimate price, and they never learn because they died. It's too late now to teach. Even experienced hikers need to be rescued. All it takes is You're in the middle of somewhere, you took a wrong turn, you got no cell phone signal. The next thing you know, it's nighttime, you can't see anything, there's no lights. And you're out there hoping a search party will find you. Just an honest mistake, made a wrong turn, got yourself turned around. And depending on your survival skills will determine if you'll live. Depending on your survival skills and how long it takes people to find you. And that's a normal day in the news here, especially in the summertime. I don't recall ever hearing that in Michigan. We have a river that people like to go out on inner tubes, and it's just a slow-moving river. And a lot of younger people, you know, they'll bring an inner tube, and in the center of the inner tube, it'll hold a cooler filled with beer, and they attach one inner tube to the next one, and they lay on the one inner tube with their can of beer, and they party, and they drown. They fall off the inner tube. They're drunk. They have to go pull the bodies out. So they've already pulled out 2 or 3 bodies out of the Salt River so far this year, and we're only getting started. And that's what they chose to do with their time off. They chose to go and do something to get themselves killed. Okay, people being people. I've lost empathy for it. I just don't care anymore. Like, you're that stupid. You probably weren't long for this earth anyway. But again, you don't really hear too much about that in Michigan. It still happens anywhere, right? But you know, Michigan has 1,000 lakes. You don't very rarely hear about anybody drowning in the lakes. It happens, but nowhere near as often. NY Renal MD said in Palm Springs every week, I admit a hiker for heat-related reasons, and they're typically newbies to hiking. That's a hell of a way to get started, isn't it? Edward Bass said he's in upstate New York, in Rhinebeck, Hudson Valley, in the Hudson River. I'll stay right here. It sounds lovely. Upstate New York is gorgeous. Gorgeous. What can you do? And he says the Sierra Nevada mountains are the most beautiful in the world. I like the, you know, Yosemite National Park for sure. It's definitely second only to, in my list, to Yellowstone. Yellowstone is the penultimate national park in the United States, in my opinion. But Yosemite is great. I love my visit to Yosemite. I've been there a few times. And it's all in Sierra Nevadas, and it's getting a little bit crowded, but you know, looking at the waterfalls, and you know, it's pretty big. If you've never been to Yellowstone, you might think it's huge. Yellowstone puts it to shame. Yellowstone is just this variety of geography, from the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, Yellowstone Lake, which is massive, and then you've got Mammoth Hot Spring. It's like you're on different planets. You break it into 4 pieces. You've got this quarter, this quarter, this quarter, and they're so different. The redwoods, no, the redwoods are Yosemite, not Yellowstone. But you have these different geographical types of landscapes at Yellowstone. There's 4 of them, where it's like you're visiting 4 different parks, and each one of the 4 are huge. You can't really appreciate the scope of it unless you go. The variety of wildlife, from bald eagles to moose, you know, things we don't see in Arizona anyway. I guess you could see bald eagles up north here, but I've never seen one. I appreciate nature. You get a lot of variety of that, both at Yosemite and at Yellowstone. Beautiful parks, absolutely gorgeous. NY Renal MD said it's certainly human nature to try to conquer things despite warnings. Yeah, the problem is, what if you don't succeed? I think that's the part people don't comprehend. What's your backup plan? How are you gonna, it's like parachuting without an emergency chute. It'll probably open just fine. Your main chute will probably be fine. But what if it isn't? Well, I guess you're gonna die then. And that's what people, you know, they risk their lives because they don't, it's a thrill to toy with death. We love roller coasters, right? We love the thrill, a lot of us do. The thrill of skydiving. But the reality is, there's a chance for death if things don't go right. And that's the thrill. Brian Weber said he just got back from Eastern Tennessee. The Great Smoky Mountains were breathtaking. I've never seen the Great Smoky Mountains, I don't think. Or I've been through the Appalachians. So I've been through the Grand Tetons. That's, well, I haven't been through them. I was very close to them, like right up against them. Breathtaking. What's in Missouri? What's that mountain range called? Can't think of it. Hello, Google. St. Francois Mountain? No, that's not. Ozarks. That's the Ozark Mountains. Yeah, we've been through the Ozarks. That was the word I was looking for. I would love to drive the Appalachian Trail, you know, start up in New England and drive down. And I would love to, you know, where it ends down there, just keep going down to Key West. That would be a wonderful road trip. It's on my bucket list. Yeah, Andy's got it, Ozarks. That's it, Andy. Yep. So when we get back to this mini PC, right? I knew part 2 on this wasn't going to be very informational. We did a lot of the evaluation, opening it up, reinstalled Windows to see what we needed for drivers. We went through all of that in part 1. So if you want more information on this, be sure and check out part 1. Part 2 is mostly just the long-term test results from like Cinebench and things that we didn't have time to do. And it performs just like any other 5300U. It's not any better, it's not any worse. We don't know enough about Glorlin or Gatorly, they're both the same company, to say that they have good support or not. I don't know. But I can tell you, me personally, I have no interest in a $300 computer made by anyone. I just don't. I wouldn't recommend a $300 computer to any of my business clients unless it was a very unique situation like, well, we want something to use as a display in the conference room, right? Or we need something small and out of the way for our digital signage out front. Something like this would probably work for them just fine. But as for actual people sitting down and using it for work, this is more of a home user, very baseline thing that's a pretty good value for the money for what you're getting, in my opinion. As to whether or not I recommend it, when it comes to Gatorly and Glorlin, I just don't know enough about them. They haven't been around long enough to establish a reputation of good or bad. We've worked with them a little bit in the past. We do seem to run into some language barrier issues. They're definitely a smaller company, but that also is why they can charge less. If you buy from Amazon, you have a 30-day return. Outside of that, I can't tell you what's going to happen if anything bad happens. But I can promise you you're not going to lose much money because they didn't cost much to begin with. More than likely, it'll last just as reliably as any other PC, just that it's already 6 years old when you buy it. That's, again, how you got the cheaper price. So at the end of the day, it's not something I would say to avoid, but if you're buying it with the proper expectations and understanding of what you're buying and what you're getting, it's not a big risk under $300. It's not like you got to take out a loan. You know what I mean? You shouldn't have to. And if you did, you should be able to pay that loan off pretty damn quickly. So do I recommend it? Or under the right circumstances, if it fits into that particular little sort of niche, yeah, it's a recommendation. Other than that, no. It's not the best built machine. It's not the coolest machine. It's not the most powerful by a stretch. It doesn't have the most features at all. But it's also not something that's bad. It's just you get what you pay for here. And if you expect more, pay more. That's all. So overall, my goal will be to just sell this off. We'll see if anybody even wants to buy it. You know, the problem is it's $290 brand new. So how much do you think you're going to get out of it used? But whatever we get out of it, we'll turn around, we'll reinvest it back in the channel so we can buy something else. Amazon Prime Day is coming up in 2 days. So June 23rd through the 26th, I believe, are Amazon Prime Day. That's for Amazon Prime customers, where they have a bunch of sales. Some of those sales are all gimmicks and other sales are real. If you guys find any good deals with tech or gadgets, computers, mini PCs, laptops, please let us know. Send us an email and share the product's deal so we can let other people take advantage of it. Lee Huxham said he's looking for a mini PC to create a retro emulator using Batacera. Yeah, something like this will play those retro Batacera games probably just fine. I've seen emulators people sell for $375 for like, well, let me give you an example. What's it called? Something like SD Arcade. And it's just a single board designed for running like Batacera. Oh, Arcade SD. Apparently I'm dyslexia. The term SD Arcade typically refers to the Arcade SD, a popular programmable multi-game JAMA printed circuit board. It allows enthusiasts to load and run dozens of classic 80s and 90s arcade game ROMs on authentic arcade hardware or a custom cabinet build. So whether you're looking to set up an authentic arcade, modify an existing cabinet, or configure the software, the platform provides several options. One, the official Arcade SD board is available from Phoenix Arcade, where you can find detailed hardware diagnostics. And then there's videos on how you can set it up. The reason I mention it is I want to show you how much. This is $290, okay? And it's a full working Windows computer, but could also do Batacera. But if you look at this device, which is only an emulator board, in and of itself, it still needs a power supply, it still needs a monitor. Well, this needs a monitor too, but it comes with a power supply. This one does not come with a power supply. It's a VGA output only. You plug speakers into it for sound. And how much is it? You ready? It's $375 plus $20 shipping. You could buy 2 of these mini PCs and have $20 left over. No, that's not right, is it? Yeah, it is. So $375 would be $400. Let's round it up. And this is $290. So you buy this and have $100 left over. I knew I wasn't doing the math right. But that is your ultimate sort of game emulator if you're interested in that. That's a little SD card. You put your Batacera software, and you have to provide your own SD card. You're not getting much. Oh, yeah, it says a 2 GB SD card for hundreds of games is sold separately. You're not getting a joystick. All you're getting is the board at $375. So I think that's a ripoff. In that case, this would be a better deal, in my opinion. Andy says, are there better deals out there? Yes, at times, but you've got to keep looking and know what you want. This is true. SoCal Geek says, hey, my friend, glad to see you're still at it. Me too. Thanks for saying hello. Lee Huxham said he was looking at the Ken Hank systems. I don't know what Ken Hank systems are. Never heard of that. He said they're really expensive. Ken Hank systems. Retro game console. Oh, does that include the whole box? Let's take a look at it. I've never seen this before. Amazing Super Console, $369. That's cheaper than what I was just showing. I'm not sure what benefit there is to playing retro games in 8K, but you know, to each their own. Well, you can really see those pixels. Those 8-bit pixels sure do look blurry. Gigabit Ethernet, I don't know who that's for. HDR, I don't know who that's for. Wi-Fi, why would you need Wi-Fi on this? I don't know. Android operating system. Okay. That explains a lot. So basically it's a phone. But this is where all the money's going. At least that's a 4 terabyte mechanical drive. If you just want to buy the drive itself, that's probably the bulk of it. Why is the price not changing? Don't know. Is this Australian? Are you in Australia? Is that why you're looking at this? You know, to have the luxury of time to spend money on toys and then have all the time in the world to play with your toys just takes me back to being a teenager again. As an adult, it just doesn't sound that appealing to me overall. I wouldn't mind turning it on and playing it for about 20 minutes and then putting it back in the closet for 2 years. So I wouldn't put any money into it myself. But, you know, to each their own. You have your interests. I like to play the game of solve the computer problem and get paid. That's the high score I want. It'd be my checking account and the number of happy customers. I want the most amount of happy customers in one day that a single employed computer tech can ever have. And I want to make the most amount of money by helping the most amount of customers in one day. And every day is another opportunity for me to hit the high score. It is the best game I've ever played. But you know, a little Galaga here and there, I don't mind that. I'm also not a drinker, but I'm not opposed to going out once or twice a year and having a drink or two. That's the extent of it. I guess I've become an old fuddy-duddy. But I'm happy. Floats my boat. Totes my goats. NY Renal MD says it looks like an Android spyware box. You know, for all we know, it could be. Lee Huxham said he's in the UK. Oh, I see. And there's enough YouTube content out there now. You can almost type in anything if you want to learn how to do anything. Carpentry, plumbing, how to set up a Batacera gaming SD card or rig entire. I mean, it's YouTube has changed so much now. It's very easy to miss out on entire categories of content if you don't actually search them. There's, I want you to think about the math on this. Well, let's go over here. How many hours of new content are uploaded daily to YouTube? 720,000 hours of new content is uploaded every day. That equals about 500 hours of video every single minute of every single hour of every single day. So my follow-up question would be, how many videos did YouTube host in 2009 when we started versus today? Are you ready? You sitting down? In 2009, YouTube hosted a few million videos with an average upload rate of 15 hours per minute. Today, the platform, YouTube, has an estimated, these numbers, 30 billion. That's 30,000 million videos with over 1 billion YouTube shorts, which aren't even included in that number. Currently in 2026, YouTube is accepting more than 500 hours of new content every single minute of every single day. So there's so much content out there. If you don't search for it, the algorithm isn't likely going to recommend it to you. So the beauty of that is that anything you want to know about, no matter how obscure, there's probably a video on it, probably several. The downside is if you don't know enough to go and look for it or to think about it, you're just ignorant of it, right? Ignorance is bliss. You don't know any better. If you can think of it, anything in your imagination right now, it's almost to the point where if you punch your keyboard, somebody's got a video on it. How crazy is that? So if you're a content creator and you're just starting out now, boy, oh boy, are you in a very crowded sea. You waited a little too long to be noticed because you're just lost in the crowd. That's unfortunate, because there's some great brand new content creators out there that aren't getting the attention they would have gotten if they would have started 10 years ago. Nobody could know this. But 10 years ago, there weren't as many viewers. So again, if I go back over to Google and I ask, how many daily viewers did YouTube have in 2009? Oops, let me rephrase. 2009 versus today. So not only did the number of content creators become overwhelming, the number of viewers did. YouTube has become the second most visited website on the planet, only second to Google. So, for example, in 2009, YouTube reached approximately 1 billion daily views. 2009, when we started this, 1 billion daily views. Today, YouTube averages over 1 billion hours of video watched every day. YouTube Shorts alone commands an astonishing 2 billion daily views. It's insane. The numbers are astronomical. So we've got much more people know what YouTube is today than they did in 2009. Many people didn't know what YouTube was. Many people didn't have the bandwidth to even play a video in HD. I don't even know many videos were in HD back then. So what's the future going to hold? At some point, something has to give. There's only so much storage space. There's only so many people on the planet. So what's next? I don't know. But when we find out, we'll tell you. But we all have this thing in common that we're all experiencing this. And if you look back at how the platform has changed in just a short period of time, like even if you just go back 10 years, this platform is so different than what it used to be. And in some ways, popularity ruins things. It takes away, the rarity that made it special. But in other ways, it makes it better because there's so much variety of content now. You can literally think of just about anything. I would challenge you. Come up with the most obscure idea you have. Somebody's already got a video on it. I can almost guarantee it. If you can type in a subject matter where no video exists, please share it with me, because I think you're using the wrong search words. That's not a problem with YouTube. That's with you, not being clear on what you're looking for. I can't imagine anything in human history that isn't already covered in YouTube. So where does it go from here? I mean, if it's already been done, the reality can't keep up with new information and new technology to keep covering new news, to keep YouTube going with new subjects. At some point, it's just going to repeat itself. Once you watch an embroidery video, they don't really change. Maybe the content creators change, and maybe the embroidery tools or threads change. Maybe there's new patterns and new techniques. It's still just embroidery, right? But at some point, YouTube didn't have any embroidery videos at all. Somebody was first. After a while, everybody else just becomes next. So what does that lead to with the popularity of the channel once it becomes boring? And how close are we to that? I guess we're all going to find out together. I'm enjoying the ride, and I'm enjoying the community we've created here that wouldn't have happened anywhere else. And glad you're joining me on the journey. Andy says it's no wonder they're building all these data centers and thus content creators just making up stuff. Yeah, well, what else is there? Yeah, Mark Liganosio say the same thing. All the reasons AI is the... are we saying AI is the reason all the data centers are popping up? Well, just keep in mind that all those hours of video being uploaded every day have to be stored somewhere. The data centers only have so much capacity. At some point, you will have to open another data center. At some point, it won't be profitable anymore. Or they have to start really deleting old historical content or archiving it under a paywall. We'll see how it goes, but they can't do this forever. There will be a time where the cost of it is going to exceed the revenue that it generates. But AI is definitely opening a lot more data centers. But Google's part of that too. Who's to say that they're not doing both with one data center? This is part of it for YouTube. They use this part of it for AI, et cetera, et cetera. Not necessarily black and white on that. But okay, listen guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. I guess I'm going to put this back in the box. Unless anybody's got any final questions about this box here. It's a great value at $290. Who's to say it doesn't go on sale on Prime Day? I mean, that's ridiculously cheap. It does have 2 sticks of RAM in it, so it's running a dual channel, and a 512 gig Gen 3 NVMe, even though it's not the fastest Gen 3. When you look at the price of RAM and storage these days, you're practically getting the computer for free. Not quite, but damn near. Katie Bousquet said, would you ever consider doing another Scamming the Scammers video? I thought those were funny, but I only asked because of how AI has taken over a lot of this stuff. I wonder if spam calls happen as often now. I don't get them anymore. I don't get spam calls. I think part of the reason is my phone provider just filters them out. They don't even let them go through. I haven't gotten one in a long time. We did get a notice in the mail the other day that our... what did it say? Was it for car? Was it car warranty? Anyway, the letter had no company name on it, no company address. It was vague. It didn't really talk about the make or model of the car. And there's no company name. Somebody paid to have that printed, and they paid for postage. It showed up in snail mail. So I took a picture of it with my phone and then did a Google search, an image search. You know you can do that, right? You can take a picture of something instead of typing in what you're searching for. You just hit the little camera button and ask Google, what am I looking at? And Google will say, oh, you're looking at a Rolex Submariner watch, Submariner, right? It'll specify exactly the model, and do you want to shop for it? And they make a commission. Of course they do that. One of my favorite examples was, I think it was Apple, was showing how you can use Siri or something. Somebody standing on a corner outside taking a picture of a restaurant. And it said, what are the hours the restaurant is open? And in the picture is a sign that has the hours. Like all they had to do was walk a little closer. But you know, look how powerful Siri is. It can tell you what's 10 feet away from you. So it's a little amusing, but it's also fascinating. You know, I wonder what these sunglasses that Robert Downey Jr. were wearing, get a picture of a freeze frame, put that into Google image search, and it'll likely come up with it. This is the DKNY sunglasses that are sold at Sunglass Hut for $400, whatever. So you could take like this letter we received, take a picture of it with the phone, submit that to Google, and then you'll see all these people reporting this going back 4 or 5 years. They're still doing it. And it's the same signature, the same person's name signs it, but there's no company name, there's no return address, and it's just all a scam. That's the only scam I've seen. And I haven't seen that one in about 2 years. So it's not, that costs them money to do that. So apparently there are enough people still falling for it that even years later it still works. At least works well enough to earn a profit. It's a stupid way to earn money. NY Renal MD said there's an Ace Magic 7735HS for $395 on Amazon with 24 gigs of RAM and a 512 gig drive. So the 7735, let's see here. I misspelled it. 7735H, release date. That processor came out in 2023. So that one's about half the age of this one, with 50% more memory. I don't know. Does that seem like a good deal? It's up to you. I mean, there's options out there. So it's $85 more. You get 8 more gigs of RAM, and you get a processor that's 3 years newer, but it's still 3 years old. It doesn't sound like a bargain to me. It just sounds like more of you get what you pay for. But look, if you find deals, let us know. I might not think it's a deal, but I'd still like to know about it. Katie Bousquet said, maybe a video idea to show how scammers have changed their tactics. In Florida, we get these toll violations. They seem to be trying anything these days. I don't get them. How are you getting, are you talking about like text messages? That's usually an indication of your phone. So like the latest Android operating system, that's all built into the OS. It's called Haya, and it automatically filters all that stuff out. Like you don't have to turn that on. It just does it. And it may say you've missed a text from somebody, or it might say this text was blocked, but it doesn't annoy you. It doesn't beep. You actually have to look at your phone, and it'll have these little flags. It'll say, oh, by the way, there's a notice here. And you look at the notification, and you look at it. It says, we blocked this for you. There's nothing for you to do. Just as is. So this, I think the problem is if you're talking about SMS messages, you have maybe an older phone. I don't know, because I'm not. That's all being stopped basically between the service provider and the Android operating system. I just don't get the calls. They don't come through. And I can't imagine what's different between you and I. Brian Weber says, I get the toll ones via text from UK numbers. There's no way they are real. Well, again, your phone should be blocking all that. Mine does. I didn't do anything to it. It's just how it comes. I don't pay extra for it. It's not a fee. Jim Kenny wants to know, how do you get 24 gigs of RAM? 24 gigs of RAM is usually from soldered on RAM. It's a pretty common configuration of DDR5. There's 2 banks of 12. Very common. I'll tell you the other thing you can do with your phone is you can just tell your phone only allow numbers to ring your phone if they're in your contacts list. Otherwise, send them to voicemail. Then you don't have to rely on services like Haya or your phone provider. You say, don't alert me to any notifications of incoming calls or texts that are unfamiliar numbers. So it'll still accept the calls, but it won't ring your phone. It sends them directly to voicemail. And usually they don't leave a message. When you look at your phone, it'll say, oh, you missed a call here. And if you're curious, you can go to Google and type that phone number in and see who it was. In most cases, it's nobody. It's and it come up as nothing. It was a random number they generated. Didn't work. And then if somebody calls you legitimately who's never called you before, they will leave a voicemail. They'll say, hey, it's John. I'm giving you a call. Then you can add John to your contacts, and that won't ever happen again. Then when John calls in the future, you'll go right through. That's free. All you gotta do is turn it on. In fact, the best thing that I've ever done with my phone is turn on Do Not Disturb. My phone never beeps unless the cameras, the security cameras activate. Have you heard my phone beep once this whole video? Have you heard my phone beep in any of my videos this year? It's stress-free, man. I'm telling you, just turn that speaker off. Silence it. Put the phone on Do Not Disturb and leave it there. We're looking at our phones, if you're like most people, every 10 minutes anyway. How long does it... Is 10 minutes too long to wait for a call back? I promise you, if you call me right now, you're going to my voicemail. And even if you don't leave a message, you may not need to. Maybe we know each other quite well. If Mitch calls me, he doesn't need to leave a message. I see I missed a call from Mitch. Okay, I'll call him back. It can wait. Not life or death. I'm not an emergency number. I'm not 911. It's all good. I don't need the interruption. I don't need to be driving and hear this nonsense. In my opinion, every phone should be enabled with Do Not Disturb by default. You should have to turn it off. There's no phone call that important. And if it is that important, they say, hey, I want you to know somebody died, they'll still be dead when I call them back. It's stupid. So-and-so went to the hospital. They'll still be in the... Nobody usually goes to the hospital for 2 minutes. They'll still be there. And likely, they're being seen by medical professionals. And all I'm doing is getting involved in something that I'm in the way. So it's better for everybody to reduce your anxiety, in my opinion. Don't worry about scam calls. Don't worry about people. Turn Do Not Disturb off. You check your phone when you want to, not when the phone beeps at you like you're some kind of dog. Ding, ding, check me. Ding, ding, I want your attention. You're not my boss. I own you. Exhibit that control of being in charge, and people will respect it. Nobody will ever complain to you about it. And all of a sudden, life becomes much more stress-free without this thing randomly dinging all the time. I leave it on Do Not Disturb. I almost never take it off. I'll call you back. Transvat says hello. Brian Weber said he set silence any unknown calls and only allow calls that you do know to allow to beep your phone. Calls and text. Yeah. Yeah, that works too. Jim Kenny says that's why he loves the no cell phone policy at work. Yeah, and schools too, finally. Jeez, it took them forever. There's no reason kids need to have their phones with them in school. That's just stupid. If there's an emergency at school, the parents are going to find out. You know how I know? Think about it. All right, guys, I think that'll wrap it up for today. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Frankie B. Thank you, Buster. Thank you, Lou Greenia. Thank you, Paul Vircher, for your contributions, your support, your generosity, and most importantly, to all of our friends, thank you for being friends. with each other. To me, what an amazing sense of community in a digital world where everybody's doing their own little thing. I do miss the 1980s, the monoculture, where if something was on TV, we all kind of watched it. You know, you did or you didn't. If there was a band in concert, a lot of us went to see that band. Now everything's been fractionalized into all these little subcategories, and finding like-minded individuals in such niche categories is almost only found online. You know, I love the monoculture, what they call the monoculture. It brought us all together. And since we now have all of these options we didn't have before, you know, we used to have 3 channels of television to pick from. And at midnight, the television station went static. That was the end of broadcasting. Go to bed. Those were much more community-driven days. Those days are now, for the most part, behind us, unless you live in like a little rural town somewhere. And the older I get, the more appealing that sounds. The problem with that, of course, is there's not much job opportunity. However, with everything going work from home and online work, it's always you got internet access. Even if you don't, throw Starlink up and you're good to go. The ability to be able to live in a rural area and still make a good living is much better today. So in some ways, things have gotten better. Some ways, things have gotten worse. If you wanted to be a Hollywood star, you needed to go to Hollywood. You can now be a Hollywood star because you're on YouTube anywhere in the world. To be an author, you needed to get a permission or acceptance from a publishing company. To be a musician, you needed permission. Somebody had to allow you to do that. You can do it yourself. And you can do it yourself in a big city or in the middle of nowhere. And it doesn't matter what continent. That is amazing. But on the other side of it, in the 1980s as a teenager, there was an amazing sense of community instead. And whatever opportunities that were around you meant that you might have to move if you wanted to be in Hollywood, for example. I wanted initially to be a movie director like Steven Spielberg, you know. And I went to college and I only took 1 semester of film production. And the teacher said, look, if you're going to stay in Phoenix and you want to get into film production, you're probably going to make videos like safety and training videos for corporations that are here in Arizona, like U-Haul. They make a lot of employee safety videos. And that's not what I want to do. Ew, no. He said, if you want to work in, you know, production for Hollywood movies, you have to move to Los Angeles or you have to go to New York. You're probably not going to see much opportunity in Phoenix. And he was dead on right about it. And I switched over to computer graphic design, and I did that for a semester. And then I switched to automotive, and I said, I'll just be a mechanic. And I did that for 2, 3 semesters. It was both hands-on and academic. So the academic part was learning internal engine combustion theory. And then the hands-on was rebuilding an engine, tearing it down, rebuilding it. And in all that time, I was playing with my computer, just as a hobby. And that was the 80s. And there were good times, man. Great times. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with my life. But boy, I sure do have fond memories of how much simpler it was, because there weren't as many options. And people were more friendly to one another in the public. Now people are in a bubble. They've got their own partitions up. And it is what it is. I guess I'm lucky that I have lived both the digital and the non-digital life. And I'm partly responsible for playing a role in what this has become. It's my industry and I've worked in it. And I was there before, you know, most people. It was not very uncommon for somebody to say, why do you have a computer? That's weird. Why would you do that? You're weird. To, how in the world can you live without a computer? You're weird. And I'm part of that generation that made that change happen. I didn't do it alone, but I was definitely pushing that rock. Now I wonder, is that a rock I should have been pushing now that I see where it led to? But, you know, it doesn't matter. my pushing it wasn't going to change its momentum. There were too many people pushing it. I just happened to be part of that group. But then now that we see where the rock has gone, should we have been pushing that rock? But I love, I feel very fortunate to have lived an analog life for the first, 20 years of my life and then gone digital, because I was still young enough to really embrace it and feel enthusiasm for it in the early days when it wasn't so user-friendly, the more technical days, to appreciate where we are today and how it has changed our society and how we treat each other. That was a part I never saw coming. I never saw cell phones coming either, not like connected to the internet with a screen in your pocket. That's crazy. It's surreal. Having a cordless phone you can just take anywhere is amazing. But being able to connect to the internet anytime you want from practically anywhere on the planet, holy moly. Even growing up with this, that still amazes me how that works. But the damage it's causing to our culture, or what I perceive as damage, a degradation in society where we all become sort of loners, is that better? So at least there's rural America, that will always be a community. But in the big cities, it's like the more crowded people are, the more alone you become. It's ironic, isn't it? It's like the big rock star is Elvis Presley performing to a stadium of people. And then he leaves that crowded stadium of people cheering, and he's probably the first one out of the building, even before the lights come on. I'll bet you that people would think there's an encore, so they keep the lights out, when what's really happening is he's being escorted out the back into a limousine and driven off to the hotel where he could be alone, even if he doesn't want to be alone. Millions or hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of fans adoring you. And then you're alone in the hotel room. You're so popular, you have to be alone. There's an irony in that. And then people wouldn't leave. The concert was over. They'd have to say, Elvis has left the building. So people would just leave. You don't wait for him. He's already gone. He was the first one out the door. That's a hell of a way to say thank you to your fans. But they'll tear you apart. They'll rip your finger off to keep it as a souvenir because they love you so much. Lives are in danger. The Beatles had to run for their lives. So they learned, we have to get out of here when people still think we might be coming back for another encore, and then turn the lights on once we're outside and gone. Some fans were clever enough to still catch that, if they were outside and waiting in the back, but not most were that wise to it. But think about that, how you're so loved and adored by fans for just a couple hours, and then you're just sitting staring at the walls in your hotel room for the rest of the time. What a life. Manuel says, I learned you live in the hottest city in the United States. That's news? All right. Mark Leonosio says, I do miss the 80s chat room we called the food court at the mall. Yeah. Katie Bousquet says, I love the personal stories. Nothing but love and respect for you, Carey. Thank you for everything you do and offer. Well, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for being a member and being a part of this amazing community. Dustin Fuller says, great stream as always, Carey and Mara. Right back at you, Dustin. Thanks for hanging out with us. Pleasure having you all here. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thank you to Mara, our chat. She's not only the chat administrator, she's the channel administrator. When you reach out for email, she's the one that will be responding to you. And she loves hearing from you guys. We love hearing from you guys. If it involves me, she'll get me involved. But that way you don't have to wait on me. She's very quick to respond, and she's very good at what she does. She creates our thumbnails, our video descriptions. She helps us acquire products from manufacturers for testing, which is getting more and more challenging this year, but she's still putting the work out there. Even if we're getting more no's than yeses, we'd get no yeses at all if it were up to me, because I don't have the patience for it. So that's part of what she's doing as well. So a shout out and a thank you to her as always. To each and every one of you, thank you guys for watching. Again, Frankie B, Paul Vircher, Buster, Mark Gaines. Did I leave anybody out? I feel like I'm leaving somebody out. I hate when I don't remember. Luke Greenia. I left out our friend Luke. Shame on me. Mark Leibowitz, thank you for sharing the stories. I love Tales from the Trenches and, working as an Amazon Vine reviewer, what that was like. I love that. If you want to share your real experiences with us, we love to hear them. For better or for worse. We just don't want your friend's stories or I read on Reddit stuff. Like the internet's full of that nonsense. We want real experiences to share. And we appreciate people that take the time to share those experiences with us. Send it to us in email. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. We will be back live tomorrow at 1 o'clock for our members only video as always. And then back on probably on Wednesday. I'm not sure yet if we're going to do a Wednesday show. And definitely back Friday and definitely back Sunday as well. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Father's Day. And we'll look forward to seeing the members tomorrow. Until next time, bye for now.